Chapter 1121 Data. Right as the soldiers on the base were cheering for the mainframe for choosing the scene they wanted to see, the Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander on the screen pulled out his beam saber and ruthlessly rushed towards Lingshan's regiment commander. Right as the beam saber was about to slice up Lingshan's regiment commander's mecha, Lingshan regiment commander suddenly made a weird movement. The beam saber miraculously and softly scratched the surface of the mecha, while Lingshan's regiment commander dodged the attack. A black and narrow sword was twirling around in his palm. In the end, it ruthlessly sliced towards his opponent in an unexpected and extremely difficult position to defend. The Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander immediately narrowed his gaze. He jumped up and throttled his mecha's engine to the max, dodging the attack with the fastest speed. At the same time, his left hand caught a high-frequency blade that popped out from his leg and blocked the incoming sword with it. He then felt a strong force coming from his left hand. The immense force pushed his mecha back up even faster. In the blink of an eye, he was sent backwards by a few hundred meters. His probing attack almost allowed his opponent to have a chance to hit him. The Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander instantly had cold sweats from this surprising development. When he looked towards Lingshan's regiment commander mecha, he no longer had the arrogant look on his face. Instead, he became very cautious and serious. On the plus side, the probing attack wasn't completely useless. At least it allowed him to understand that the opponent in front of him wasn't weaker than him, an Imperial operator. Yes, although Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander was piloting an Ace Mecha, he had already become an Imperial operator. It was just like the Huaxia Federation. In order to increase their battle potential, these Imperial operators weren't registered into the mainframe and announced to the world. Instead, they chose to hide their levels and continue to stay within the military to be the vanguard of their nations. This was an unspoken rule that all nations in the world agreed upon silently. Thus, they would be considered Imperial's mecha operator that piloted Ace mechas. However, when an Imperial operator pilots an Ace mecha, they could theoretically make full use of all parts of an Ace mecha, and they could even increase the battle potential of them. Thus, the important border areas between nations always had a strong Imperial operator hiding their level and defending that location. For example, Qi Yaoyang from back then had once hidden his level and guarded the border for 15 years. Of course, the Nebula boundary was only a small border, with base Nebula being a base that could attack and escape. It wasn't important whether or not the strongest regiment commander of the strongest clan was an Imperial operator. This was also why when Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander received his orders, he didn't think much of it. He thought it would be just like usual and they would easily complete their mission. It wasn't because he was proud and arrogant, but rather because he wasn't the only one who was an Imperial operator hiding their level among members of Night Ace Mecha Clan. The top 10 leaders under his command had already or perhaps already reached the level of pseudo-Imperial operator. Despite Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander being surprised by Ling Lan's level, he still wasn't worried. It was only just one Imperial operator. As long as he kept Ling Lan busy, victory will definitely be Night Ace Mecha Clan's. Boss, someone who can escape from your clutches is definitely an Imperial operator. Little Four's expression began to become serious. When even Little Four didn't put much emphasis on Ace Mecha operators, you would know Boss could easily defeat a group of mecha operators. However, an Imperial operator, despite having confidence in Boss, Little Four was still worried because Boss's body was still in the recovery stage. Would fighting a similar level opponent cause any negative side effects on her body? Yeah, Night Ace Mecha Clan is ranked 18th in Caesar. If their regiment commander isn't an Imperial operator, then that would be weird. Ling Lan thought calmly. From the very beginning, when she knew the enemy was Night Ace Mecha Clan, she already knew that this regiment commander was an Imperial operator. Before taking her forces to Base Nebula, Ling Lan had returned home for a few days of vacation to say goodbye to her mom and dad. After enduring her mom's nagging, Ling Zhao took her to the secret room and talked for a long time. He told her things that he hadn't mentioned before, one of which was that in every country, There were Imperial operators hidden among in their militaries. Ling Zhao was afraid that his daughter would be fooled by the fake information on the surface. That was why he told her about the details of which mecha clans had hidden Imperial operators among them. Back then, when she saw her father handing her a thick pile of papers, she was mortified. It turns out, the number of Imperial operators was actually quite a lot compared to those shown on the surface. It was only because they were hidden in the military by those who were in power. Unfortunately for Night Ace Mecha Clan, their leaders were included in the list of who were suspected to have already reached Imperial level. Compared to how Night Ace Mecha Clan knew nothing of Lingshan's capabilities, Lingshan knew Night Ace Mecha Clan very well. This was why Lingshan's leaders had already set their sights on Night Ace Mecha Clan's leaders. They all knew that those people were their actual enemies. Information was the most important factor to win a battle. There was no doubt that in the battle between Lingshan and Night Ace Mecha Clan, Lingshan got everything going for them. If they still couldn't take Night Ace Mecha Clan down with all the advantages, then Linglan would have to think about whether her subordinates were all unable to become stronger without her help. Linglan's words made Little Four realize that he had actually forgotten about that list. He put his head down in shame. He remembered that at that time, he seemed to have become so excited that he was dizzy because he saw Linglan's father beside him. He didn't even pay attention to the list of names. No, I can't lose to Dad's handsomeness and noble mannerisms. Little Four clenched his fists silently to get himself pumped. If he was to be in the same room as Dad again, he definitely wouldn't allow himself to freeze up. Linglan only spoke with Little Four for a short while and then continued to fight. The two of them didn't want the other to have the chance of going into the center of the battlefield to create problems for their own side. They both had the thought of purposely keeping each other busy and letting their subordinates take care of things. The decision made through unplanned unison caused the attacks by the two of them to become mainly to keep each other busy. The fight between the two of them was like fire and water. It was seemingly dangerous and extremely fierce. However, both of them knew that their current fight wasn't as dangerous as the instant when they had first encountered each other. However, the soldiers who were watching couldn't see through to this fact. They had their hearts gripped tightly while watching the fight between two regiment commanders. Every time Lingshan's regiment commander was in danger, these soldiers would uncontrollably clench their fists and become overly nervous. Some people even couldn't hold it in and shouted out, "What do you guys see?" In the area under the control tower, many regiment commanders who were on standby were standing in front of a large screen. Among them were 3 or 4 people standing in a small corner. After seeing Lingshan and Night Ace Mecha Clan's fierce battle, one of the softly asked a question to the people around him. According to our information we acquired, Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander is a hidden Imperial operator, one person replied softly. From that we assume that Lingshan's regiment commander is also definitely an Imperial operator. Another person continued, who knew that Base Nebula would finally have an Imperial operator gracing us with his appearance. The person who asked the question in the beginning now had a frozen expression on his face. Elder Brother Wu, what did you discover? Seeing the oldest out of their group have a frozen expression, the other instantly became nervous. Chapter 1122 Known Around the World. I didn't figure anything out. But I know that if the higher-ups sent out a nameless and not well-known titled Super Mecha Clan, with the regiment commander as an Imperial operator, then something is off. Elder Brother Wu smiled bitterly. If we safely survive this battle, I suggest you all go increase your strength and your clan's battle potential immediately. Why? One person asked. A war. A cataclysmic war is approaching. Elder Brother Wu took a deep breath with a heavy expression. If it were actually what he thought, then how many of them could remain alive at the end of it all? Elder Brother Wu's words turned the atmosphere solemn. Knowing Elder Brother Wu's character, they knew that he would not say anything if it wasn't important. If he said something would happen, then the chance of it happening was very high. In that instant, they all became silent as they watched the battle between the two regiment commanders with complicated expressions on their faces. At that moment, in the battlefield, Countless mechas had been shot down and destroyed. The destruction of the war lit up this dark area of space. After clashing with Ling Lan again and again, the Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander finally said, "You're strong, but it's time to end this." After not receiving any reports and notifications from his leaders for quite some time now, the Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander finally felt a bit uneasy about the situation. According to their normal procedures, once the situation was under control, his leaders would report to him as soon as possible. However, the comlink channels in his mecha were completely silent. He had tried to contact them himself, but there was no response. Something was off. "Boss," he found out. Little Four pouted. In order to make sure the opponent didn't know about the situation in the battlefield, Little Four had to cut off all signals around them by Ling Lan's orders. Of course, the result of cutting off all the signals was that they also couldn't receive any information from the outside. Thus, Little Four also didn't know who was winning and who was losing. "I wanted to keep him busy longer, but if he has discovered it, then we might as well stop blocking the signals." Ling Lan didn't mind too much about her opponent finding out her plan. If she wanted to keep someone there, she was confident no one could escape from her grasp once she had them. Of course, if she were to forcibly block him from escaping, there would be more work she needed to do. That was why she lazily and shamelessly asked Little Four to block off the signals. If she could take the easier route, she would definitely not take the more difficult route. When the Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander decided to put an end to this farce, he heard many people calling out to him in his mecha's comlink channels. "Regiment commander, please respond when you hear this. Please respond when you hear this. Regiment commander, Team 34 has been scattered everywhere. We can't hold any longer. Please provide backup. Please provide backup. Regiment commander, Team 09's leader has died, Team 07's leader is severely injured and Team 05's leader has disappeared without a trace. The three teams have been completely scattered all around the place. My Team 06 is also fighting a hard battle on our front. Please provide backup to them, Regiment Commander. We cannot hold out much longer." "Ha! Ha!" Team 06's leader shouted while breathing heavily. His situation was turning worse and worse. Bad news flooded into Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander's ears one by one. The death, severe injury and loss of his three pseudo-imperial operators pained his heart. Could it be that the strongest Caesar Mecha Clan, Night Ace Mecha Clan, was going to become decimated right here and now? No. Team 06, hold your ground. Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander roared in a saddened tone. He lifted up the large sword in his hand and rotated it with great force. With an immense and terrifying force, he sliced towards Ling Lan. The person who was responsible for all this was this beast in front of him. As long as he killed him, then victory would belong to Night Ace Mecha Clan. Ling Lan looked up and felt the tip of the blade coming at her from all sides. No matter where she dodged, she would still get hit by it. True Whirlwind Strike. Interesting. Then let me see which is stronger, my own True Whirlwind Strike or Caesar's True Whirlwind Strike. Ling Lan's wrist shook softly and firmament began to tremble in her hands. The tip of the blade began to rotate in a circular motion. Almost simultaneously, the two of them shouted, "Break!" The force behind two different weapons finally met up with each other. Out of the two True Whirlwind Strikes, one of the strikes was performed on the basis to break through everything in its path, while the other strike used technique to break through from a point. Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander felt a strong force hit his large sword. This force did not reach him just once, but rather in waves, with each wave getting stronger than the last. Finally, this force reached a point that was more than what he could endure. Of course, Ling Lan also felt the same overwhelming force that was coming towards her. Ling Lan decisively jumped backwards. The two mechas were sent flying backwards by the force of the clash. While the mecha was spiraling out of control, Ling Lan slowly and calmly used her fingers to send many commands to the mainframe of the mecha. At the same time, she activated the mecha's engine. Her mecha somersaulted to counter the last remnant of the explosive force to land perfectly. Her opponent, the Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander, didn't have it as easy as she did. He was sent flying for a few hundred meters before he managed to gain back control of his mecha. After seeing this scene, the soldiers in the base all instantly clapped and cheered. Their regiment commander from Lingshan finally managed to push away his opponent. They were waiting for this scene for too long. They almost thought that they would never see it. In terms of mecha power control, our regiment commander from Lingshan is clearly better than his opponent. The specs of mechas were fixed. However, how much strength one could exert from the mecha depended on the ability of the mecha operator. That's right. Victory to Lingshan! Victory to Lingshan! No one knew which soldier shouted out victory to Lingshan, but everyone in the audience just began to chant. Ling Lan and the regiment commander from Night Ace Mecha Clan didn't know the situation because Little Four had blocked off all signals. However, the soldiers in the base saw everything as clear as day. The mainframe in the base discovered Little Four was finally gone and no longer giving it commands. Well, actually, when he blocked off false signals, Little Four also blocked himself from the mainframe. His signal jamming ability was one that targeted both enemy and ally communications. This excited the mainframe because in the past few days, it could rarely make its own decisions. The first thing he did is to impulsively change the scene to just the battle between normal members of both clans to prove that it was the real master of Base Nebula. Well, in reality, the battle between Lingshan's regiment commander and Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander had frightened it. That was why it decided to not watch it for its own sake. In the end, the soldiers in the base were only able to see Lingshan's leaders killing and injuring Night Ace Mecha Clan's leaders. Of course, they also saw Lingshan's mecha operators, who were not able to hold off against mecha operators from Night Ace Mecha Clan be defeated. These scenes both excited and saddened the audience for Lingshan's victories and for Lingshan's sacrifices respectively. At that moment, the scene returned its focus to the regiment commanders. The mainframe discovered that his boss, Little Four, had returned. That's why he obediently turned it back to the two regiment commanders. Lingshan's regiment commander was pushing Night Ace Mecha Clan's regiment commander back. The excitement instantly made those watching unable to control their emotions and caused them to instantly begin cheering loudly. The screams began from the front of one large screen and continued to spread. Not long after, victory to Lingshan was being cheered by everyone across the entire base. After this battle, Lingshan will definitely be known around the galaxy. Yu Huan also heard the cheers. He looked at the regiment commander mecha on the screen with a complicated expression. In the end, he sighed ever so silently. Chapter 1123 Unexpected. How is that possible? The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan looked at the mecha of the regiment commander of Lingshan in disbelief. In order to force obedience in the mecha operators under him, he had to be overwhelmingly stronger than them. He had been in the Imperial level for 10 years. His understanding and familiarity with the Imperial level were much deeper than those new Imperial operators and pseudo-Imperial operators. This was why he was able to maintain an iron grip in Night Ace Mecha Clan. In the past, even when he met Qi Yewang in battle, he never lost. This was why he didn't care much when he knew that Ling Lan was an Imperial operator. Qi Yewang was the undefeatable god of war of the Federation. He was the most powerful hidden Imperial operator, so how could a no-named Imperial operator be compared to him? Did another Qi Yewang appear in the Federation? But he hadn't heard of Ling Lan's name before. No. Wait, a huge event occurred in the Federation a couple of months ago. The son of Ling Zhao jumped levels and operated a god-class mecha during the battle on planet Heijiao. This piece of news astounded the world. The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan thought about this and felt shocked. The son of Ling Zhao suffered from a serious backlash, and he lost his ability to ever pilot a mecha ever again. This verdict was confirmed by all the specialists and god-class mecha masters from all over the universe. The backlash from operating a god-class mecha was just too very strong. He was already very lucky to be able to stay alive. The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan believed in the verdict of the specialist and god-class operators, but for some reason, he couldn't help but feel that this person in front of him was the son of Ling Zhao. There were not many people with the surname Ling. He couldn't think of anyone else with the surname Ling who had such powerful talent and background. As long as he didn't die, there were many possibilities. It was possible that the son of Ling Zhao managed to recover and regained his ability to pilot a mecha. Prince Ling, the regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan, suddenly shouted in the public channel. Little Four. Ling Lan was shocked. She quickly called for Little Four in her mindscape. Don't worry, boss. I've already blocked that sentence from the channel. Little Four replied immediately. This was boss's secret. If boss didn't want anyone to know about this, no one would ever know. Little Four was satisfied with his reaction speed. He didn't miss the chance to flaunt to his boss. Huh? Why does this seem so familiar? It feels like something Li Lan would do. PFFT. Why did I think of that bastard? This is just my natural reaction. Little Four started scolding himself. He wasn't influenced by Li Lan. No way. Ling Lan was satisfied by Little Four's reaction. Since she had nothing to worry about, she said, "Your reaction speed is pretty fast, huh? It's really you." The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan narrowed his eyes. He instantly pressed the button to send this message back to Caesar. However, the screen popped out and told him that the action had failed. What happened? Why couldn't he send the message? The radar system on his Ace Mecha had been modified, so there shouldn't be any problem with sending a message back to the command ship. Don't be surprised. I blocked all your signals. Ling Lan knew what the other party wanted to do. No wonder you are admitting to it. The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan suddenly understood why his opponent admitted his identity so readily. He didn't have anything to worry about. He probably had some high-tech interference system installed on his mecha to prevent him from sending messages back to Caesar. The only way was to relay this message back to Caesar was to defeat this person and bring the message back personally. The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan held the sword in his hand tightly as he glared at Ling Lan. That's right. Ling Lan smiled. You might have a chance if you just focus on fighting with me. This was not a provocation, it was the truth. Just now, Ling Lan didn't go all out because she was worried about the condition of her body. Ha ha ha, Prince Ling, you're too arrogant. The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan was so angry that he laughed. Your father is a God-class operator. Not you. How dare he look down on me? I must have him pay the price for his arrogance. The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan roared angrily. A loud explosion from his engine was heard, and his mecha disappeared. Ling Lan looked into the emptiness calmly. Firmament started spinning around her mecha. The high speed caused deep black whirlpool to form around Firmament. The strains from the whirlpool started spreading out. Here, Ling Lan held on to Firmament and struck it at an abnormal spot. Sparks flew and two cold weapons collided. Ling Lan was right. This was where the regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan was hiding. How did you find me? The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan finally asked the question he was curious about. No matter where you hide, you still exist, Ling Lan replied before putting more pressure behind her sword. Firmament was a good cold weapon. However, it was too thin and too narrow for most mecha operators. Most mecha operators weren't able to use it properly. Even if they did use Firmament, they wouldn't use it like a huge sword like what Ling Lan was doing. When comparing the two swords, Firmament seemed weak. The people at the base felt that Ling Lan's sword would break in half under the pressure of the opponent's sword. However, their worry was unnecessary. In the scene, the heavy sword was the one getting suppressed by the thin sword. This is a battle of pure strength. Most powerful mecha operators at the base knew what this represented. They screamed in happiness. Who said that Base Nebula didn't have a powerful mecha clan protecting it? Lingshan was that mecha clan. Look! Someone suddenly exclaimed. He pointed to the corner of the screen. Mechas. Which side are they from? The audience saw mechas coming from the corner of the screen. 3 mechas were flying in from 3 different directions. Their goal was the 2 regiment commanders battling in the middle of the screen. The mechas moved really quickly and were very small, so it was hard to identify them. It's our mechas. The soldiers at the base shouted happily when they saw Lingshan's symbols. At that moment, the 3 mechas suddenly disappeared from the screen. Everyone stopped shouting. What happened? Ah! Screams were heard. The regiment commander of Lingshan, who was on the winning end, suddenly flew out. Before everyone regained their sense, a second scream came out from their throat uncontrollably. 3 cold weapons stabbed into the cockpit where the regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan was in. Chapter 1124 Annihilation. The regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan used his last ounce of strength to look at the regiment commander of Lingshan in front of him. His opponent's mecha spined its sword until the tip of the sword was right in front of his cockpit. He could almost see the sneer on his opponent's face. He seemed to be saying, "Do you think you can really defeat me?" A mouthful of blood suddenly spurted out of the regiment commander's mouth, tainting the screen in front of him blood red. He slowly accepted his fate. He always had a smooth journey in his life. He had killed many regiment commanders from the Federation in his journey, but maybe the smooth journey had made him forget that there were no rules on the battlefield. It was his fault that he got ambushed by his enemies, but this also represented that Lingshan won the battle against his mecha clan. If not, how could these mecha operators be able to ambush him? He did notice the mechas when they ambushed him, but there was already no chance of escaping as these ambushing mecha operators were as powerful as him. "Lingshan, who are you?" the regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan said before he took his last breath. His eyes were wide open, dead, lifeless. He didn't get an answer to his question in the end, so he wasn't able to die in content. At that moment, the 3 mechas pulled out their cold weapons from the body of their opponent's mecha. They titled their bodies and slowly floated in the air. Regiment commander. The 3 mecha lined up in front of Ling Lan. The soldiers in the base finally saw who the mecha operators were. The leader of Team 01, the leader of Team 02, and the leader of Team 06 were the people who managed to defeat the regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan. No, wait, wasn't the leader of Team 06 fighting with the leader of Team 07 from Night Ace Mecha Clan? Did he already defeat the leader of Team 07? No. That's impossible. No matter how powerful Li Lan was, he wouldn't be able to defeat someone equally powerful in such a short time. Other people might not know what happened, but the people from Lingshan Mecha Clan knew. They heard Zhao Jun's furious voice in their channel. "Li Lan, how dare you kick me? Wait till this ends." After Zhao Jun defeated his opponent, he got kicked by Li Lan. He didn't even manage to take a break and regain his senses. He accidentally bumped into the team leader of Team 07 from Night Ace Mecha Clan. Thus, he had no choice but to fight with him. Zhao Jun could only grab his sword tightly and fight with his opponent for dear life. As for Li Lan, he didn't even look back. He just flew happily towards his Ling Lan. How could Zhao Jun not be frustrated? No one was surprised by what had happened. Only some team leaders were irritated by Zhao Jun's constant yelling, so they turned off their channels so that they could prevent themselves from getting deaf. But those newer team members didn't dare to do it, so they could only listen obediently to the constant yelling. Everyone remained calm because they knew this was what Big Leader Li was always like. Besides the 2 veteran soldiers, the team leaders of Team 01 and 02, everyone fell victim to Li Lan's traps before. Zhao Jun and Li Yingji were the 2 people who got tricked the most. They would always fight for the position of the most unlucky person of the month. There was a saying in Lingshan, "You can provoke anyone but Big Leader Li." What about Ling Lan? Are you kidding me? If you provoke Big Leader Li, you would be calculated and schemed against, but you would still be alive in the end. If you offended boss, it wouldn't be an issue of death, it would be an issue of how to die faster. Boss just wasn't too lenient in this issue. Hurry up and end the fight. Ling Lan didn't even spare another glance at the regiment commander of Night Ace Mecha Clan. She just gave an order immediately. Yes. The 3 leaders quickly disappeared from their spot. The surviving members of Night Ace Mecha Clan saw their regiment commander getting killed and felt hopeless. They didn't have the courage to fight anymore. They started running away. If their opponent was a normal Ace Mecha Clan or a newly advanced titled Super Mecha Clan, they might be able to escape. However, this bunch of mecha operators were as powerful as any mecha operators from a top-tier titled Super Mecha Clan. How were they able to escape? The battle was too one-sided. The mecha operators from Lingshan started chasing after the mecha operators from Night Ace Mecha Clan. Lingshan's tradition could be seen through this battle. The audience watching the battle started turning pale in the face as they watched it. The mecha operators from Lingshan were like sharks who smelled blood. Once they bite someone, their comrades would rush over and chop the enemy mecha into pieces. This type of viciousness wasn't usually found in the Federation. The soldiers of the Federation were vicious, but they would usually show mercy once the result of a battle was decided. They wouldn't act so mercilessly. Are they attempting to annihilate their opponent? One of the mecha operators watching the battle swallowed his saliva. Annihilating a mecha clan wasn't something new. However, it would normally happen to low-tier mecha clans. No nation would care about the destruction of such mecha clans as they had many more in the back. However, for famous mecha clans, or titled super mecha clans, unless both parties had deep grudges, annihilation was a big thing. This was a matter of glory and pride. No nation would be able to swallow this. Night Ace Mecha Clan was the top 18th mecha clan in Caesar. Once it was destroyed, the conflict between Caesar and the Federation would escalate tremendously. Yang Mingzi and Liu Furong defeated their opponents and looked at the massacre around them. They frowned. Regiment commander Yang Mingzi finally decided to talk to Ling Lan personally. "What's the matter?" Ling Lan replied calmly. "Since the battle is already decided, it's time to go back." Yang Mingzi reminded her, "It's all right. Our mecha operators are having a good time. Let them have more fun." Ling Lan replied, "But if we annihilate them all, it will bring trouble to the Federation." Yang Mingzi spoke up about his concern. "Do you think that the Federation will be safe if I stop now?" Ling Lan answered, "Unless we lose and get annihilated by our opponents, the result will still be the same. If that is the case, why not slap Caesar harder?" A cold light flashed past Ling Lan's eyes. Chapter 1125 Baseline. Yang Mingzi thought deeply about Ling Lan's words. After a few seconds, he smiled bitterly. "You understand the situation well. I was too simple-minded." "You're not simple-minded, you just don't want to think," Ling Lan answered. Yang Mingzi was stunned by the sudden praise. He laughed after a while. "Regiment commander, don't be so direct. I have some ego too. There's not much time left. I'll only be able to let go of the Lingshan Mecha Clan after you sort out your thoughts." Ling Lan seemed to be referring to something. Yang Mingzi sighed. "I didn't manage to fool you. You didn't plan to fool me in the first place. If not, you wouldn't show so many loopholes to me." Ling Lan replied indifferently. "Isn't it because you stopped caring about these things, or was I too sensitive?" Yang Mingzi slightly smiled as he asked, "There's no point in saying such things. You know that Li Lan has always been watching you." Ling Lan pouted. She always hated talking to sly old foxes. They always beat around the bush. "I was under the impression that you won't trust big leader Li." Yang Mingzi smiled. "Oh, why?" Ling Lan raised her eyebrows. She was curious about the reason why. Li Lan is from the branch family, but he has a strong connection with the main family. Moreover, you have two other successors of the Li family in your team. I thought that you would have your guards up against them. Yang Mingzi had his own information sources, so he managed to discover Li Lan's identity. VN. As for Li Shu and Li Yingji, anyone who wanted to know more would be able to easily uncover their identity. The Li family had never thought of hiding them. They didn't go to the 4th Division but came to the 23rd Division instead. It's obvious that they wanted to make use of General Ling Zhao's power. Yang Mingzi looked at Ling Lan's mecha. He said with respect, "Or they might be eyeing you instead. They want to make use of your fame to break the bind the military has on the Li family. Actually, the Li family is very successful through your teachings. Under your guidance, the 3 members of the Li family gained a good military rank. Every one of them is lieutenant colonels or higher. Li Lan is even a colonel." Yang Mingzi smiled. 26 years old. When I was 26 years old, I was still working hard to become a senior captain. I only became a colonel after turning 35 years old. I'm really jealous of them. Why didn't I meet such a good regiment commander like you when I was young? I think you are very clear about their schemes already." Yang Mingzi turned serious. Do you really not mind, or are you guarding against them while using them? I've checked your past before you entered 250 Ace Mecha Clan. The first marshal should be the one asking you to tell me all these information, right? Ling Lan frowned. She went straight to the point. Regiment commander, since you already know it, why do you have to ask? Yang Mingzi gave a forced smile. All his secrets were uncovered. He was the team leader of Team O1, but he was also the first marshal's man. I just want to clear everything up at once. The Lingshan Mecha clan could seem mysterious to outsiders, but she knew everything about the clan clearly. This was the only way to prevent Lingshan from falling apart internally. Ling Lan created Lingshan, but one day, she might have to leave this mecha clan. However, she didn't want Lingshan to only last briefly after her departure. She hoped that the spirit of Lingshan would pass down to future generations continuously. Actually, it doesn't matter if you're first marshal's man, Ling Lan said seriously. My father is under the first marshal too. Hence, we're from the same faction. Yang Mingzi smiled bitterly. Was it really the same? Today, if our loyalty lied towards the same person, then we're from the same faction. Tomorrow, if our ideas are different, we would have to go our separate ways. However, the two people must be in the same position for that to happen. He was groomed personally by the first marshal. If his mecha clan didn't get annihilated and he didn't get mentally traumatized by it, he might have already become the general of the first division. That year, he was supposed to rise to become a major general. However, even after he gave up on himself, the first marshal didn't give up on him. He still treated him very well and dragged him everywhere just to make him forget the pain. He was the one who didn't want to bother the first marshal, so he applied to come to the 23rd Division. If not, he might have been the most trusted advisor of the first marshal. His connection with the first marshal was too deep. He didn't know what he would do if the first marshal asked him to leave Lingshan and go back to the first division. That was why he tried his best to groom Liu Furong, Gudong Yang, and the other team leaders. In the end, he was just a visitor of Lingshan, and he didn't know how long he could stay for. Of course, just like what you said, the military is guarding against all the elite families, including the Li family, Yi family, and the four big families. This was why members of other families could attain high positions in the military, but the members of elite families couldn't. Ling Lan had always chatted with her father about the secrets of the military, so she knew how vigilant the military was of elite families. But what do all these have to do with me? Ling Lan asked lightly. I'm just a regiment commander. They're able to get what they want if they follow you. Yang Mingzi was shocked. They need to have the strength to do that first. If they have it, why should I prevent them? Ling Lan didn't care. Aren't you afraid they'll take over your power? Yang Mingzi frowned. Only unconfident people will have such thoughts. Ling Lan smiled and said proudly, even if I gave Lingshan to them, it'll still be my Lingshan once I step in. Yang Mingzi felt his heart pounding. He looked at the mecha floating in midair with a complicated expression. He felt that if the sky dropped, this mecha would be able to hold it up. I understand. Yang Mingzi smiled. From the very beginning, Ling Lan wasn't afraid. That was why he didn't guard against the Li family or the first marshal. From the moment the Lingshan mecha clan was created, Ling Lan was its soul. Our choice might be different, but that doesn't mean we can't work together. I understand, Regiment Commander. Yang Mingzi smiled brightly. I only have one request. Don't do anything that could harm Lingshan directly or indirectly. I won't forgive anyone who does that. Ling Lan told him her baseline. I understand, Regiment Commander. Yang Mingzi turned serious as he made his promise. Chapter 1126. Wait. Go and clear up the battlefield then. Ling Lan's tone suddenly turned cold. The gentleness in her voice disappeared. Yes, Regiment Commander. Yang Mingzi gripped his sword and flew away. The vicious regiment commander was so scary. Ling Lan lightly rubbed her temples. Troublesome. However, did the first marshal really think that she would start guarding against the Li family just because of his words? He seemed to be underestimating her. The Lingshan mecha clan had left her father's 23rd division, so she didn't have anything to worry about now. If Li Lan really wanted it, she wouldn't mind giving it to him. She would eventually leave the military in the future. She didn't mind handing Lingshan over to any of the team leaders. The news of Night Ace MechaClan's crushing defeat was soon passed to the Supreme Commander of Caesar. How is that possible? The commanding officer couldn't believe this news at all. He had placed all of his hopes on Night Ace MechaClan to capture Base Nebula, yet, the undefeatable top-tier MechaClan suffered an inexcusable defeat. Who is it? Who defeated them? Is it Dawn Hell, Ultimate Evil, Graceful Beauty, Emperor Rule, or the 8 Dragons? The commanding officer was furious. He quickly listed all the top 10 famous MechaClans he was suspicious of. Number: it's a MechaClan called Lingshan. The commanding officer's secretary's body was shaking. Cold sweat formed on his forehead. Luckily, he still managed to report what he found to his superior. Lingshan? The commanding officer was stunned. The name of this Lingshan MechaClan was unfamiliar to him. He opened his mouth and asked, what is its rank in the Federation? To annihilate the Night Ace MechaClan, they had to be within the top 15 MechaClans. I can't find them, but the reports state that it's a newly advanced titled Super MechaClan. The secretary wiped his cold sweat and forced a smile on his face. When he read the report, he also felt like it wasn't accurate. That's impossible. Are those people trying to fool me? Damn it. The commanding officer took out his sword from its sheath on his waist and slashed the corner of the table. Commanding officer, we shouldn't doubt anyone now. We need to figure out what we need to do now. The advisor beside him reminded him, the defeat of the Night Ace MechaClan messed up their plan. However, Caesar still had an advantage on the main battlefield. If they planned properly, they might still have a chance to take over the Nebula boundary. You sent 2 of our best MechaClans to take over the position of the Night Ace MechaClan and order them to continue attacking. Don't give the Federation a chance to breathe. The commanding officer calmed down and thought about the next course of action. Boss, something is happening on Caesar's starship. The moment Caesar acted, Little Four noticed. He quickly informed his boss. Huh? Ling Lan looked up at him. Caesar is planning to move all their forces to the front line. They are also sending 2 MechaClans to take over Night Ace MechaClan's position. Little Four looked at the 200 mecha operators from Night Ace who were still fighting to survive. Their other comrades had already turned into ruins in space. He started pitying the commanding officer of Caesar, as his actions would cause the annihilation of 2 more MechaClans. Hurry up and clear the battlefield. 2 more big fishes are coming in. Ling Lan opened her channel and said calmly. The team leaders and deputy leaders, who were watching at the side, took up their weapons and started clearing up the remaining opponents who were supposed to be practice dummies for the newer mecha operators. Head, shall we send the rescue team? Luo Zhao's deputy looked at the battlefield and noticed that the fight was coming to an end. However, his head still hadn't given any orders. There's no hurry. Luo Zhao waved her hands calmly. She stopped her deputy who wanted to persuade her. Let's wait for a while. The deputy wanted to push his opinion further. If they didn't send the rescue team now, they wouldn't be able to save the mecha operators in time. If that happened, his head would be punished seriously. Although Luo Zhao was their regiment commander's fiancée, their regiment commander still punished her equally if she made any mistakes. He might be even stricter on his fiancée. He had chatted with his friends before and said that it was better to not be their regiment commander's fiancée. Weird. Why hasn't Luo Zhao sent in the rescue team? Li Jingong and Lin Zonking were looking at the battle between Lingshan and Night Ace MechaClan from the command center of the Lingshan camping ground. They were puzzled too when they saw Luo Zhao not doing anything after the battlefield was clearing up. Zonking, shall we remind her? Yuan Yian suggested. They went to school with Luo Zhao and Han Xuya. Compared to Lin Zonking and Luo Lang, they spent 5 more years with them. Their relationship was closer, so they couldn't bear to see her making mistakes. Lin Zonking glanced at him. He seemed unhappy as he said, "Have you seen Luo Zhao making any mistakes during important events?" Everyone thought for a moment. They realized that Luo Zhao was mostly punished because of her physical skills. For example, she wasn't able to finish the training boss had planned for them. As for the executing the orders boss gave her, She never made any mistakes in that aspect. Why hadn't she sent in the rescue team yet? Isn't she clearly making a mistake? What happened to your intelligence? Lin Zonking was speechless. Honestly, if someone makes mistakes, it will be you all, not Luo Zhao and Hong Xuya. Lin Zonking was extremely irritating when he wished to be. Of course, only the higher authorities of Lingshan knew about this. Other people only knew Lin Zonking as a strict but kind and gentle head. Lin Zonking smiled coldly when he saw the annoyance on everyone's face. You believe me? The only reason why she didn't move is that she received an order from boss. In that case, why didn't boss inform us? Li Jingong was unwilling to give up. Our mission is to control the internal workings of the base. Why would boss inform us about what's happening on the battlefield? Lin Zonking rebutted. The answer will be revealed soon. Let's sit quietly and watch. Okay. Li Jingong and the other side. Why weren't they as calm as Lin Zonking? They sat down quietly and watched the screen. They saw the people from Lingshan killing the last dregs of Night Ace Mecha Clan. The mecha operators, who were doing anything, quickly cleared up the battlefield. If they saw a dying comrade, they would bring them into their cockpit. If they saw a surviving enemy, they would give them another stab. Chapter 1127 Survivor. When the last enemy was killed, every mecha operator started clearing up the battlefield. All the team leaders brought their team members to different areas and started to camouflage themselves. They disappeared from the screen. The chameleon system. The people at the base shouted excitedly when they saw close to 2,000 mechas disappearing into the vast space. The chameleon system was able to camouflage the mechas to their surroundings. It was the perfect assassination system. However, this system was expensive and difficult to produce. Only those mechas with special mission would require to have such a system installed. Other types of mechas had no affinity with this system. The more powerful the titled Super Mecha Clan was, the better their equipment they had. It was said that only the top 10 legendary mecha clans in the Federation had such a system installed in all their ace mechas. Moreover, only these mecha clans would have the right to own such powerful mechas too. Of course, these were all just rumors. No one knew if they were true. They thought that they would only be able to see such an ambush in their dreams. Yet, it was happening right in front of their eyes. Is Lingshan actually a legendary mecha clan in disguise? Almost everyone thought about this possibility. They continued staring at the screen in anticipation even though they didn't know why Lingshan suddenly hid. Just like that, the screen remained empty for 3 minutes. Only some broken ruins of mechas flew past the screen once in a while. Just as the soldiers at the base thought that their eyes were going to roll out from their skulls, they suddenly saw numerous mechas appearing from the other end of the screen. It's Caesar. The hearts of all the audience started pounding furiously. From the small dots on the screen, they could tell that there were more mechas than the last battle. Lingshan had just ended a battle. Would they be able to handle another frightening attack? If the two parties collided, Lingshan would be the one being surrounded. The tides of war had now changed. Before this, Lingshan surrounded the Night Ace Mecha Clan. Now, they were the ones in a predicament. By now, all the soldiers in the base understood why the mecha operators of Lingshan activated their chameleon system. Finally, the two mecha clans from Caesar entered the area where the battle happened a moment ago. They were shocked to see the ruins of Caesar mechas floating in the empty space. Night Ace Mecha Clan didn't manage to last until our arrival? One of the regiment commanders was flabbergasted. The battle should have just ended. Another regiment commander looked at the spiking thermal radar and said, "How long approximately?" These two regiment commanders had worked together many times so they knew what each other's abilities were. They trusted each other deeply. Not more than 10 minutes ago. The regiment commander replied after analyzing the thermal radar. "They're lucky. They left before we came." The regiment commander who spoke first said with frustration, "Roland, do you think knights gave up resisting and were taken as prisoners, or were they?" He wasn't able to say the word annihilated. "I hope that they were taken as prisoners, Doran," Roland replied. "Why?" Doran was puzzled. "That means that we won't be in danger. The other party must have retreated since they have so many prisoners, but, if they really got, we must run away now." Roland was serious. If Lingshan Mecha Clan was able to defeat the Night Ace Mecha Clan within such a short time, they must be really powerful. Not a single mecha was able to escape, including their regiment commander, who was chosen as one of 100 mecha operators with the highest potential to advance to God class. They were already not as strong as the Night Ace Mecha Clan. If they remained behind, what results could they achieve? Regiment Commander Doran was thinking about the same thing. He shivered. Shall we retreat? This place was too quiet. It scared him. Since we're here, we need to search carefully to check if there are any survivors. If not, we will be treated as cowards when we go back. Roland didn't expect this mission to be so troublesome. He thought that they were only here to reinforce the Night Ace Mecha Clan, but instead, they were here to collect their corpses. Okay, let's search the area quickly and look for survivors. Just as Doran was about to give his command, Roland shouted, "Wait!" Doran got nervous. What's wrong? Send 3 mecha teams to search the area first. If nothing happens to them, we'll send the rest of our mecha clan. Roland was a cautious person. Before he understood the entire situation, he would not allow his clan to go forward. Okay, I'll listen to you. Doran felt that this arrangement was more appropriate too. Soon, 6 mecha teams started searching the area in 6 different directions. Not longer after, they really managed to find survivors. Regiment Commander, we found survivors. The search party was extremely excited. Roland got nervous when he heard this. He quickly asked Doran to be on his guard and asked his men to prepare for battle at any moment. Then, he ordered the search party to bring the survivors back. Regiment Commander, we found 4 survivors. They showed the broken cockpits in their hands. They said, however, we have too few people. We can't go deeper. There should be more survivors deeper in. Roland grabbed his giant sword tightly, but his tone remained calm as he replied, Team 45 will be in charge of searching for survivors. You all will follow me. Yes. The search party left again. This happened a couple more times, and finally around 10 survivors were found in total. However, since the search party was very small, they only managed to search a small portion of the battlefield. Roland, we can't continue like this. It will take more than half a day to search the entire battlefield. This is the Nebula boundary. We can't stay here for too long. It's too dangerous here. Base Nebula wasn't far away from them. If the main battle didn't take most of the attention of Base Nebula, they wouldn't dare to stay here for so long. Nothing happened after so many attempts, so Roland started to wonder if he was being too cautious. He thought for a moment and decided to hasten the speed of the search to prevent any changes from happening. Hence, Roland and Doran sent all their mecha operators into the battlefield to search for survivors. Chapter 1128 Analysis. Around 500 mecha operators started to spread out and search for survivors. Strangely, the closer they got towards Base Nebula, the fewer the survivors they found. The number of survivors found by 2 whole mecha clans was fewer than the number of survivors found by the 3 mecha teams. Roland frowned when he saw this odd situation. He felt that something was amiss. He started to feel agitated. Suddenly, he thought of something. He quickly switched to the public channel of the 2 mecha clans and asked, "Did you find any survivors from the Federation just now?" The 3 leaders of the mecha teams replied, "Number. We only found our men." Roland's expression quickly changed. He shouted instantly, "Retreat." We got fooled. The mecha operators from the 2 mecha clans were stunned when they heard this. Suddenly, the space around them started distorting and numerous mechas appeared out of nowhere. The Federation. The mecha operators were only able to shout his sentence before they got stabbed by swords. Numerous mecha operators were killed instantly. The sudden ambush flustered the mecha operators from Caesar. They didn't know what to do. All the team leaders were shouting for their team members to reunite. Before this, they were split up to cover more areas, so they were currently no match for an organized team. Every part of the space was filled with the leader of a team and his deputy. They were all either Imperial Mecha operators or Pseudo-Imperial operators. Even the weaker ones were peak-level Ace Mecha Masters. Their team members were all peak-level Ace Mecha Masters too. Under the leadership of their leaders, they attacked the unprepared Caesar Mecha operators ferociously like wild beasts. They are so vicious. Yuhuan's expression constantly changed from the moment he saw Lingshan fighting with Night Ace. He was shocked and stunned when he saw Lingshan continuing to fight with two more mecha clans after annihilating one mecha clan. He didn't know what to say anymore. I always thought that he was just a talent the military wanted to groom. I was worried that he was too young, that he might make mistakes. That was why I didn't let him be the commander-in-chief immediately. When he requested to fight with Night Ace Mecha Clan, I thought that he was being reckless and hot-blooded. Now, it seems like I was the one who underestimated them. Yuhuan gave a bitter smile. He looked at the mecha that was standing upright among all the shining stars in space. The mecha waved its sword lightly and the other mechas would start killing their enemies ruthlessly as though they were given a command. They were ruthless. They only had one aim: the cockpit. They had no intention of leaving any survivors. Such an act shouldn't have happened. The battlefield was brutal and there was no mercy, but most nations still had a humanitarian agreement. Once the result of the battle was decided, the other party shouldn't kill their opponents anymore. They must first ask their opponents to surrender. If their opponents didn't want to surrender, they could then kill them. Of course, if it was a life or death situation, such a matter wouldn't exist. For instance, Twilight would never hold back whenever it fought with the Federation. However, this grudge subsided a little after General Ling Zhao came back alive. They weren't talents groomed by the Federation, they were devils released by the military. Yuhuan searched for the order he received again. He blankly stared at the order. In charge of the safety of the planetary sector, he started analyzing this order carefully. Did this mean that the military had already given them the rights of command but to fool Caesar? They didn't state it clearly. Yuhuan didn't think that this was an assessment for Lingshan, but based on their current strength, no mecha clan in Base Nebula could fight on par with it, not even Proudwind Mecha Clan. If Lingshan wanted to gain the right of command, they just needed to ask the regiment commanders of the other mecha clans for a mecha battle. However, they didn't. They chose to stay in their camping ground and pass the 4 months calmly. Were they not interested in the title of top mecha clan, or was their regiment commander not interested in the position of a commander-in-chief? He had only seen Ling Lan once. He was in a daze the whole time and he almost ignored him. But the sudden change in his aura towards the end and the cold and dangerous gaze allowed him to know that this wasn't someone indifferent to fame and wealth. He was someone who would get what he wanted. That meant that there must be a reason why this ambitious person gave up the position of commander-in-chief. Is he trying to hide his capabilities? He probably doesn't trust the security of the base. Yuhuan seemed to understand something. He recalled how they were always at the losing end in their battle against Caesar. He and Qufeng thought of many schemes, but they always failed at the crucial moment. Did someone from Caesar manage to infiltrate the base? Yuhuan frowned. He was frustrated. As the commanding officer of the base for more than 10 years, he had already treated Base Nebula as his home. All the soldiers in the base were his family, yet someone among them was a spy. It was hard for him to accept this. Most importantly, he didn't realize this problem at all. He needed someone who just came to the base to remind him of the possibility of a spy using his actions. The military probably have realized this problem, so they sent Lingshan to control the situation. Yuhuan could only comfort himself this way. There were many advisors in the military. It was possible that they were able to notice the existence of a spy. That's maybe why Lingshan remained low profile until they had a chance to teach Caesar a lesson. Yuhuan felt that he had finally understood the order. This was the only explanation why Lingshan was so powerful. Lingshan Mecha Clan might be a component in the entire scheme too. They might be a legendary mecha clan in disguise. No, legendary mecha clans were highly scrutinized by everyone, so they wouldn't be able to disguise themselves so perfectly. Chapter 1129 Unfortunate. The most reasonable explanation was that this mecha clan had its title changed when it was close to reaching legendary mecha clan status. It also took imperial operators who hid their abilities from different clans to increase the fighting potential of the mecha clan. Thus, it could be explained that it wasn't a legendary mecha clan when it formed. but yet it had the strength of a legendary mecha clan. The Federation's military was playing a long game and Lingshan Mecha Clan was this game's most important piece. Yu Huan's body shook and his eyes brightened. If that was the case, then he must cooperate with them to the best of his abilities. Base Nebula would definitely become Lingshan's strongest shield. Ling Lan didn't know that Yu Huan had made such an odd connection to all the information available to him. She just wanted to let the new recruits get blood on their hands and prompt their ruthlessness and merciless behaviors. The Federation's military also didn't expect that Yu Huan would think of it like that when all they wanted to do was to make it difficult for Ling Zhao and Ling Lan by giving them an annoying order. It had to be said that Ling Lan was very lucky. Every time she made a mess of things, it was either her father cleaning up after her or someone who didn't know the truth and used their own imagination and in the end actively helping her out. Plus, Ling Lan made the ruthless decision because she wasn't aware she needed to abide by the rules of the Humanitarian Act. The only battle she experienced was the battle on planet Hejiao where such rules didn't apply. That was because Helia had already become enemies with the Federation because of the debate of who planet Hejiao belonged to. In that way, abiding to the rules of the Humanitarian Act would depend on the commanders in the battle. If they were in a good mood, they would abide by it and they would pretend it didn't exist if they were in a bad mood. When Ling Lan entered the battle on planet Hejiao, her luck was in the negatives. She encountered Heilia's long-planned-out plot of sending out a full frontal attack to completely take over planet Hejiao. In order to achieve victory as fast as possible, a battle like that wouldn't abide to such rules. After experiencing countless times of battles to the death, Ling Lan assumed all battlefields were like this where one side perishes and the other side lives. The so-called Humanitarian Act was only just used to hide the truth from common citizens. Little Four, also as an outsider, had received records from the Mandora star system. The records from the Mandora star system also showed that during the battle between two parties, it was a battle to the death with no surrenders. As General Ling Zhao, who should have been responsible for teaching his daughter common knowledge about the battlefield, thought Ling Lan knew and understood everything. It couldn't be helped. Ling Lan was too independent, which made Ling Zhao believe that such a small thing didn't need his teaching. Plus, he had never thought his daughter was fond of killing. In Ling Zhao's mind, his daughter would forever be a cute little princess. The adjective merciless didn't have any connections with his daughter. As for the leaders working under Ling Lan, they knew that Boss's real personality was merciless. Of course, they wouldn't look for punishment themselves and remind Boss that mercilessness in this situation was wrong. Even if someone was brave enough to remind her, it still wouldn't do anything. If it didn't do anything, then why would they go do something that yielded nothing? They would rather follow Boss and sharpen their blades to slaughter livestock. Lingshan's group of individuals seemed to evolve into merciless individuals under Ling Lan's unconscious teachings. It forced them to have to be merciless in order to fit in. Lingshan's ambush forced Caesar's two mecha clans unable to respond in time. However, these two mecha clans were after all not like standard mechas or mecha clan with new recruits where it was their first time on a battlefield. After a short while of panic, their team leaders finally managed to gather a portion of their forces and began retaliating with Lingshan's mecha operators. Although Lingshan's ambush from the beginning had caused the two mecha clans to lose much of their forces, their numbers were still more than twice as many as Lingshan. We have more people than them. Everyone stop panicking and victory will be ours. Caesar's leaders noticed the number of mecha on Lingshan's side and immediately tried to boost the morale of their team members. These words to boost morale were without a doubt effective. A battle in outer space was often won through the sheer numbers of mechas. When these mecha operators saw that there weren't many mecha operators who had ambushed them, they instantly calmed down. Once they calmed down, their piloting skills instantly recovered to their normal state. Caesar's mecha operators began to perform to their actual capabilities and clashed with the mecha operators from Lingshan who were chasing them. Doran saw this and his expression changed for the better. When he fell into the trap and ambushed, He had thought that they had entered the Federation's encirclement and it was all lost. He didn't expect that it was just a small group of mecha operators ambushing them. As long as they calmed down and fought normally, they would have a chance of turning the tide. Compared to Doran's excitement, Roland's expression didn't change at all and was still pale as a white sheet. "Doran!" he suddenly shouted, "let's run." "Huh?" Doran was dumbfounded. He didn't know why Roland would choose to run after knowing the opposition had way fewer people than they did. Wasn't retreating making Caesar look bad? It should be known that in the past few years the Federation had always just watched as they escaped. Night Ace Mecha Clan. Did you forget what happened to Night Ace Mecha Clan? Roland's voice broke as he shouted out in fear, "Run! Everyone run!" These mechas from the Federation showed traces of being in a battle. Some mecha even lost an arm or leg. These were all indications that these mecha operators from the Federation had just fought a fierce battle. Night Ace Mecha Clan lost here, so that meant the mecha operators who killed them were these mecha operators standing before them. In addition to their sudden appearance, they were also definitely equipped with the high-cost and difficult-to-create chameleon system. And all of the mechas had this system. What did that mean? It meant that these mecha operators were the strongest in the Federation. Otherwise the Federation wouldn't waste such money and resources on them. Additionally, these mecha operators were able to calmly stand their ground after taking out Night Ace Mecha Clan and ambush them with numbers fewer than them by half. They weren't idiots and also weren't insane. They were so daring because they definitely knew they would be victorious. There was also something else. Their numbers were indeed more than the opposition, but could their piloting skills be compared to Night Ace Mecha Clan? These people had already taken out such a strong mecha clan like Night Ace Mecha Clan. Why would it be any difficult for them to take out mecha operators who were less capable than those from Night Ace Mecha Clan? After Roland shouted, his fingers began to dance around furiously. In the face of life and death, the speed of his fingers broke through his original limit. His mecha's engine roared and he retreated up without hesitation. He was lucky that he was somewhat cautious and stayed in the back all this time, so he still had a chance to escape before the opposition completely trapped them. There's actually someone who's smart? Ling Lan raised her eyebrows as she looked towards the space in front of her. Unfortunately, I don't want Caesar to know details about us just yet. Ling Lan's left hand went towards her back and a long-range beam sniper rifle appeared in it. She pointed it towards the escaping mecha and activated her profound insight domain automatically. There. Her profound insight was too strong. Only one look was enough to allow her to see where she should aim. Bang! A blinding white light shot out from the barrel, creating a straight white line as if it was going to split apart the very fabric of the dark outer space itself. Chapter 1130 Questioning. Boom. As soon as the white light touched Roland's mecha, the mecha exploded in a wonderful myriad of colors, lighting up the dark and vast space. One shot was enough to end the life of a regiment commander from Caesar. The mecha operators were stunned by Roland's order to run. Before they could even react to the sudden order, they realized that their regiment commander was killed by a long-range mecha with a single shot. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the people watching the battle in the base. The battle with Night Ace proved that Ling Lan was a powerful close combat mecha operator when everyone thought that she was just good at close combat. Her sudden snipe proved them wrong. She was good at close combat and long-range attacks. Everyone from Lingshan felt proud just by the presence of Ling Lan. This was their regiment commander, someone so powerful that they could only look up to him. Only highly skilled mecha operators would realize that Ling Lan's seemingly single shot was actually a culmination of many shots combined. The shots instantly depleted the energy of the protective shield and exploded the mecha in one single instance, making it seem like she only just fired a single shot. Kill them. All the mecha operators suddenly heard an indifferent voice on their channel. This was the order of Hades. The mecha operators shuddered just from the indifference in her voice. They quickly pushed down their excitement and tightly gripped their weapons. They started their brutal massacre. You're not satisfied with just Night Ace Mecha Clan, Ling Lan? Are you the hero of the Federation or are you the devil that's going to bring calamity? Yu Huan stared at the mecha who was mercilessly killing the mechas of team leaders so that the battle could end quickly. Somehow, he felt fearful of this young regiment commander. Ling Shan annihilated 3 mecha clans. The battle quickly came to an end. The soldiers at the base finally regained their senses. They swallowed their saliva and spoke to the person beside them in disbelief. And one of them is the top 18th mecha clan of Caesar. I feel that the power dynamic in the universe is about to change. The mecha operator's eyes were shining with excitement. He looked at the mechas from Lingshan with envy. Luo Zhao suddenly stood up and contacted Han Xuaya. Xuaya, prepare to eject the rescue team. I understand. Han Xuaya had been waiting for Luo Zhao's call. She immediately ordered the leaders of her JMC teams to eject the rescue team at the fastest possible speed. Look, Lingshan is acting again. Numerous mechas started to get ejected out of the launching ports. They quickly gathered in their teams under the command of their leaders and started clearing up the battlefield. Those are special class operators, FK. Special class operators are in the rescue team. This is so extravagant. The soldiers who were already shocked once by Lingshan's capability were shocked again. Those people who were still proud of their special class level suddenly felt shameful. They were at the same level as the logisticians in Lingshan. Is Lingshan really not a legendary mecha clan? Someone exclaimed. That's right. Only legendary mecha clans have such strength and powerful equipment. They must be a legendary mecha clan. They probably just changed their title to come here. Everyone immediately felt that they understood why Lingshan was so powerful. At that moment, Lin Zonking turned serious. It's our battlefield now. We must cooperate with Head Li's medical department and send the injured mecha operators to the recovery pods. Did they really think that 4 months was enough to increase the capabilities of the mecha operators drastically? Drastic times call for drastic measures. As boss used forbidden medicines to compensate for the lack of training time. Forbidden medicines were good to use, but the implications after using them were too great. Fortunately, Li Shu was the one who invented the medicine. Hence, he knew how to solve its implications. This was the main reason why boss chose to use it. No matter what, they must ensure that the future of these mecha operators does not get implicated by the use of the forbidden medicine. The entire camping ground started getting busy. Lingshan no longer lacked logisticians, but it still didn't reach the required number of logisticians for a mecha clan. However, under Lin Zonking's reorganization, these empty slots were taken care of. Ling Lance Safety stored her beam gun back in its holster. Lingshan had taken control of the situation. It was only a matter of time before all the Caesar mechas got destroyed. Regiment commander, there is a regiment commander from Caesar who wants to surrender. At that moment, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice appeared on the channel. Ling Lan frowned. The mecha operators from Ling Lan slowed down the massacre on their opponents when they heard this. On the public channel, a frightened and agitated voice was heard. This person was trying his best to speak the Federation's language. We surrender, surrender, stop. Ling Lan started frowning even more. She didn't plan to leave anyone alive. She was only able to make up any excuse if everyone was dead. However, this person surrendered through the public channel. If she still ordered her men to kill him, then this could be used as evidence against her in court about her breaching the Humanitarian Act. She and her father were already having a hard time dealing with the issues their enemies threw towards them. She couldn't make any mistakes at this critical juncture. Forget it. Leaving these people alive was troublesome, but she would be able to find a way to solve them. Ling Lan decided to accept the surrender. Suddenly, a scream of fright came from the channel as well as shouts of disbelief. Leader, why did you kill him? The familiar yet unfamiliar voice sounded furious and shocked. We must use their lives to repay the lives of our dead comrades. Li Lang's cold voice sounded. Leave no one behind. Kill all of them. Don't let me repeat it again. The newer soldiers and logisticians stared at the always gentle and calm big leader Li in disbelief. He actually violated the Humanitarian Act. They were flabbergasted. This was different from what they were taught. They didn't know if they should listen to him. This is an order. Li Lang raised his voice. Kill them, regiment commander. The familiar yet unfamiliar voice sounded in the channel again. He believed that his beloved regiment commander would stop this order. But, It was too late. The mecha operators in Lingshan were too used to following commands. They raised their swords and killed the surrendered mecha operators from Caesar. Chapter 1131 Scheme. Li Lan. Who was that just now? Ling Lan asked Li Lan privately. Sorry, it was Ling Yi. The anger in his voice was obvious. As the person who understood Ling Lan the most, he knew what Ling Lan wanted to do. Yet, his man put Ling Lan in a difficult position. He almost messed up the entire plan. No worries, but you need to guide Ling Yi more. Don't allow him to make any more mistakes. Ling Lan frowned as she gave Ling Yi his punishment. I understand, I'll do it well. Li Lan gave a cold smile. Ling Yi. As expected, he was an unstable factor. Boss, Ling Yi almost messed up our plan. Little Four was unhappy. That report through the public channel placed Ling Lan in a difficult position. We can't say he's wrong. He's just too simple-minded. People that came from military academy are all like him. That's why new soldiers have a lower survival rate than veteran soldiers. They need to gain more experience before they realize that mercy is not suitable on the battlefield. Ling Lan didn't mind Ling Yi's sudden outburst too much. She was just surprised at how upright Ling Yi was. If he had a smooth path ahead of him, this straight was not a bad thing. However, once his belief system collapsed, he might go on the extreme path. And this was bad news for her. Her relationship with Ling Yi was complicated. Ling Lan didn't forget that she was the one who killed his father, Ling Yi. Ling Lan sighed. She didn't hope that this seed, which she planted a long time ago, would become useful. Sometimes, she wished that the person behind everything would give up this seed when Ling Hua died. Ling Yi felt uncomfortable about the current situation. They annihilated Night Ace Mecha Clan because there was no other choice during the battle. However, this time, the other party had clearly already surrendered. Yet, Li Lan gave an order for the annihilation of their enemies even before Ling Lan made a decision. This was offensive and disrespectful to Ling Lan. Ling Yi, are you alright? Yan Huayu noticed that Ling Yi's mecha wasn't moving, so he flew over to check on him. There's something wrong with Leader Li, Ling Yi said with a cold expression. What's wrong? Yan Huayu felt goosebumps forming around his arms. He could feel that Ling Yi was walking on a dangerous path. He dared to give a command before our regiment commander said anything. Ling Yi smiled coldly. The Li family is really greedy. What do you mean? Yan Huayu's eyebrows furrowed. They respected Ling Lan very much, so they didn't hope that their idol would be betrayed by his good friend. When I was assigned to Team 06, a lot of people told me that I was unlucky. However, I found out that Leader Li specially requested for me. Ling Yi sneered. He knows that I'm Regiment Commander Ling's man, so he's afraid that he won't be able to control me if I go somewhere else. Thus, he placed me in his team. How funny is that? Does he really think that he could hide the fact that he is probing me? Does he think that I didn't notice it at all? He is underestimating me. He is underestimating the Ling family. Maybe this is Regiment Commander Ling's arrangement? Yan Huayu racked his brain to think of a way to get Ling Yi out the dangerous path he was walking on. He felt that they shouldn't think too much about what the higher authorities did. If it was Regiment Commander Ling's arrangement, it's more likely that I'll go to Leader Chi's team or Leader Luo's team. After all, they are the two people Ling Lan trusted the most. It's definitely not Li Lan. He came in much later than everyone else. Ling Yi's instinct was telling him that Li Lan was not a good man. We know that Li Shu and Li Yingji are the direct inheritors of the Li family, and Li Lan is part of it too. They used so much effort in grooming him, so I guess that they want him to support the two inheritors. During the battle on planet Heijiao, Li Lan obtained the right to command the army. As long as Ling Lan isn't around, he and Major General Yang will take over the command chain of Lingshan. The Li family has always wanted actual power within the military, and Lingshan is a good gateway for them to obtain power. Ling Yi slammed the control panel in front of him furiously when he thought of this. Unfortunately, Ling Lan is too busy with his work that he didn't realize it. Ling Lan is so powerful, he'll be alright. Yan Huayu got worried too after listening to what Ling Yi said. However, He felt that Ling Lan was invincible and that nothing bad would happen to him. Ling Lan is powerful, but what if he got betrayed by the person he trusted? Ling Yi felt that Li Lan was too dangerous. He showed his gentle and careful demeanor to fool everyone, but deep inside, he was ruthless and vicious. For example, everyone was under the impression that Li Lan was reluctant to punish them when they made mistakes during day training. They thought that he was punishing them for their sake so that they could improve. However, Ling Yi could see the indifferent look in his eyes when he was executing the punishment, especially when he was punishing little leader Li. He even saw a strong hatred from his gaze. He couldn't be wrong about his impression of Li Lan, as he had an innate talent that could look past all illusions and see the real truth. Of course, his innate talent didn't work all the time. He couldn't read the real thoughts of people stronger than him. Li Lan was more powerful than him, so by right, he couldn't see through him. However, they met every day, so there were occasions when Li Lan let down his guard. This was when Ling Yi managed to catch hints of his real thought. Do you think that big leader Li will betray our regiment commander? Yan Huayu knew about Ling Yi's innate talent. I'm not certain yet. Ling Yi was a person who looked at evidence before making any claims. He knew how dangerous Li Lan was, but he didn't know if he would really betray Ling Lan. But I feel the greatest sense of danger from him, especially now when his actions revealed some of his thoughts. We need to guard against him. Since Ling Lan didn't notice this, he would watch over Li Lan for him. This was the only thing he could do for Ling Lan. Okay, we'll listen to you. I'll tell Tanj and Little King later and ask them to be aware of big leader Li. Yan Huayu felt that it was better to be careful. No need for that. Big leader Li is a sly person. If there's anything amiss with them, he'll sense it. Tanj and Little King are not good at disguising themselves. They will be found out easily. It's better if they don't know anything. That way, they won't spoil the plan. Ling Yi hurriedly replied, "You're right." Yan Huayu nodded in agreement. Compared to the other four people, he and Ling Yi were much better at hiding their true thoughts. This was probably why Ling Yi told him everything. I want to see what Li Lan is planning. What does the Li family want to do? Ling Yi clenched his fist. He must not let them succeed. When Ling Yi was 12 years old, he met a powerful hacker in the virtual world. Their encounter was quite interesting. Either way, he managed to gain a good friend that helped him since he was young. He also managed to get a lot of information he shouldn't be able to get from his friend, and this allowed him to find out what Li Lan and the Li family were trying to do. Chapter 1132. What is this? Commanding officer, we lost contact with the two mecha clans we sent over. The people from Caesar noticed something amiss. Although Little Four had blocked the signals to the command center, the command center still realized that something had happened to them after losing contact with them. What on earth is Lingshan? Don't try to fool me again by telling me that it is a newly advanced titled Super Mecha Clan, the commanding officer shouted angrily. I'm sorry, we can't find anything on them. The secretary was helpless too. He had already sent an order to search for more information on Lingshan, but no results were found. Useless. The commanding officer flipped over his table in anger. The defeat of Night Ace Mecha Clan had already made him furious, but it still didn't affect his confidence in winning the whole battle. However, two more mecha clans had disappeared in the hands of Lingshan. They were not the most powerful mecha clan, but they weren't weak either. The commanding officer finally felt a little scared of Lingshan. Would the existence of just this mecha clan alter the result of the battle? He paced around the room while he thought of a way to get out of this situation. Should he continue fighting or should he retreat? He started to hesitate. They were on the winning side on the main battlefield, but without Night Ace Mecha Clan stopping the reinforcements and the path of retreat, he wouldn't be able to take down Base Nebula. That meant that if he continued the battle, it would just deplete the combat ability of Base Nebula. Of course, this was not the main reason why he was hesitating. If he continued the battle, he was confident that he would be able to win the overall battle. Even if he couldn't take down Base Nebula, he would still gain merits. What worried him was the existence of the Lingshan, which he didn't take into consideration at the start. It was a mecha clan that annihilated the Night Ace Mecha Clan, and most probably, The other two mecha clans he sent over, if they were badly injured after finishing off the two mecha clans, he wasn't afraid of them, he was just afraid that they still maintain their combatability. Read more chapters at listnovel.com. The commanding officer didn't believe that Lingshan was just a newly advanced titled Super Mecha Clan, as it was just as powerful as a legendary mecha clan. He knew what a legendary mecha clan represented. It was able to turn the tides of any battle no matter the situation they were in. The commanding officer suddenly recalled the famous Modoka battle written in the textbooks of Caesar. It was a battle that made the citizens of Caesar blood boil. That year, Caesar was fighting with its neighboring country, Heder United Nations from the Huaxia Federation. They silently moved into the planetary sector of Heder, but they got discovered and ambushed instead. 3 fleets were badly damaged and millions of mecha operators lost their lives. It was a really humiliating event to Caesar. After Caesar knew about this, they sent 3 legendary mecha clans as well as the 10 closest fleet to Heder. They used one day to destroy all the fleets in Heder's planetary sector. The Heder soldiers were still celebrating their victory when Caesar's army arrived. More than 100 million Heder soldiers were killed in the span of a few days. No one survived. This was the famous Modoka battle. The reason why Caesar was able to totally annihilate Heder's army even though they had fewer men was because of the 3 legendary mecha clans. When they entered the battlefield, nothing was able to stop them. No matter how powerful a fleet or a mecha clan was, they were nothing in front of legendary mecha clans. No one watching the battle would forget this image. The feeling of warm blood gushing through their bodies inspired the citizens of Caesar to want to go to the battlefield themselves. They wished that they were part of the mecha clan. They wanted to kill everyone who was disrespectful to their country. The commanding officer knew how scary a legendary mecha clan could be, so he was scared to continue the battle. He was afraid Lingshan was like those legendary mecha clans in those legends. There was a unilateral agreement that restricted legendary mecha clans, but there were still ways to work around it. Caesar had sent their legendary mecha clans out secretly before. They used them to destroy a small nation that always irritated them. As for the Huaxia Federation, they weren't as pure and reasonable as what people think. Based on what he knew, they had sent a few legendary mecha clans when they took revenge on Halea. If not, how were they able to defeat Halea so easily? After all, Halea was a middle-sized country with a good foundation. Retreat. This is the safest option. We can't get many merits if we do this, but we will be safe in the end. The commanding officer thought to himself. He wanted to give his order, but he was still unwilling to accept defeat. He thought for a while and walked out of his office. He came to the command center. All the advisors were standing in front of a 3D map. They were having a heated discussion. You've all received the latest news. What do you think? The commanding officer went straight to the point. The defeat of the Night Ace Mecha Clan means that we have no chance of taking over Base Nebula. Since we can't get what we want, we should retreat. Once we find out what happened to the Night Ace Mecha Clan, we can discuss it again. One of the advisors spoke out his thoughts. He didn't agree to stay here and waste time and energy. We have the advantage on the main battlefield. We should beat them until they get scared of us. Another advisor had a different opinion. He felt that the Federation was bold enough to attack them because they hadn't instilled fear in their hearts yet. That was why the Federation got arrogant and felt that they could win against Caesar. That's not a good idea. We don't know how the Night Ace Mecha Clan got defeated, and Lingshan is still a mystery to us. If their ability is greater than what we think, we will be the ones on the losing end. Some advisors had the same thought as the commanding officer. If Lingshan was a legendary mecha clan, they would be in a dire situation if they didn't retreat now. I suggest that we continue fighting. That is the only way we know how much strength the Federation is hiding. Some people wanted to use this chance to dig out more information about the Federation. We can't risk the lives of our mecha operators for an uncertain possibility. I suggest that we retreat. The advisors started arguing. The commanding officer felt his head throbbing. He wanted to listen to his advisors because he hoped he could get some advice from them. Instead, they made him even more confused. He didn't know what to do. Commanding officer, what do you think? Since they couldn't convince one another, The advisors looked at the commanding officer and waited for his decision. The commanding officer started contemplating, just like what one of the advisors said. Is it alright to take the risk? If he didn't find out what on earth Ling Shan was, he would still regret even after they retreated, and it would turn into a devil in his heart. He gritted his teeth and ordered, "Fight, fight until Ling Shan comes out. Let me see what it really is." Chapter 1133 The main battlefield. Ling Shan was done with all their battles. The rescue party had started searching for survivors. Even though the mecha operators had already searched the area once, the rescue party still looked around carefully. They must ensure that all the mecha operators were found, even if it was a corpse. Their regiment commander had said that whether they were dead or alive, Ling Shan would bring them back. "Boss, there's a signal from the base." Little Four received a notification of a call from the base. "Connect me." To prevent any disturbance during the battle, Ling Lan asked Little Four to block all signals from the base. That way, she could say that she didn't comprehend the situation clearly when she chose to annihilate the 3 mecha clans. This was normal. During a mecha battle, any mistakes would cost you your life. Who would care about the results of the battle then? A mecha operator only cared about the enemy in front of them. They had one thought: kill them. They must kill the enemies around them in order to survive. Thus, mistakes in analyzing the situation always happened. Often, mecha operators only realized that one side was annihilated at the end of the battle. The command center played an important role in preventing such a situation. They would give new orders to the mecha operators based on the situation of the battle. Ling Lan blocked the signal from the command center so that they wouldn't be able to contact them and tell them to stop fighting, as this would hinder her overall plan. After the call came through, Yu Huan said, "Regiment Commander Ling, congratulations on your huge win. Go straight to the point." After the good news, the bad news would come. Ling Lan knew that something had happened the moment Yu Huan opened his mouth. "We're having trouble in the main battlefield. Can Ling Shan provide help?" Yu Huan asked carefully. Ling Shan had just finished 2 battles, and both battles were hard-fought. One battle was against the powerful Night Ace Mecha Clan, while the other battle was against twice as many mecha operators. By right, they should go back to their camping ground for some rest. A tired mecha operator had a much higher death rate on the battlefield, as their mecha piloting ability would decrease. Ling Lan frowned. "What's the situation? Caesar has unleashed their entire army on us. Our ejection speed can't catch up with them." Although they had reinforcements, there was only a finite number of launching ports in the base, and all the ports were already filled up. They couldn't send their mechas out quickly to the battlefield. In terms of military strength, Caesar currently had the advantage. The mecha operators from the Federation had gathered together and started defending. This was why Yu Huan still hoped that Ling Shan could help, even though they shouldn't. Yu Huan didn't want to have a lost battle record on his resume, especially after knowing how strong Ling Shan was. "Let me consider it. I'll give you a reply soon." Ling Lan hung up immediately. Yu Huan sighed. He could only hope that Ling Lan would give him good news. Ling Lan thought for a while and asked Little Four to contact Li Shu. She asked, "How long will the medication last?" "At most 10 minutes. Li Shu looked at the time on his communicator and replied after making a thorough estimate, "It's enough." Ling Lan hung up. Then, she pressed the team channel. "Do you still have the energy to fight?" All the mecha operators stopped what they were doing and shouted excitedly, "Yes." The continuous fighting had made them hot-blooded. The effects of the forbidden medicine hadn't passed too, so they were full of energy. They didn't feel tired at all. They were dying to fight even more. "Good. Our new target is the main battlefield. I'll give you 8 minutes. After 8 minutes, we'll retreat no matter what the results are." Ling Lan announced her plan. Ling Lan knew that if Li Shu said the medicine would lose effect in 10 minutes, it would lose its effect in 10 minutes, but she wouldn't use the entire 10 minutes. She left 2 minutes for any emergency situations. Ling Lan would always be careful when there was a need to, especially on the battlefield where anything could happen. Ling Lan was even more careful if that was the case. Soon, the sound of engines revving were heard. Around 1,500 mecha operators rushed to the main battlefield under the lead of their leaders. Little Four, how long will they take to arrive? Ling Lan asked as she looked at the mecha operators flying off. Based on their current speeds, they'll arrive in 63.23 seconds. Ling Lan instantly contacted Yu Huan. Major General Yu, we'll arrive in 60 seconds. After she finished speaking, she hung up without caring about Yu Huan's reply. Yu Huan was stunned for a moment. Soon, happiness appeared on his face. He immediately contacted the main battlefield and gave his order. The command center is crazy. The regiment commanders of the mecha clans who were fighting furiously on the battlefield started cursing when they heard this command. Retaliate. What were they supposed to use for retaliation? Couldn't they tell how tired they were? Why can't we wait for the reinforcements to come before we retaliate? One of the regiment commanders slammed his control panel angrily. He accidentally pressed a button to turn on the siren of his mecha. He was shocked, but he still quickly stabilized his mecha. Fortunately, he was behind the line of defense and was in charge of commanding. If not, this mistake would have cost his life. However, this mistake allowed him to notice the red countdown timer that appeared on his screen. FK, when did the mainframe of the base become so smart? Every mecha has its own mainframe. The mainframe of the base shouldn't be able to control the mecha unless the mecha operator allowed it to, and yet, a timer appeared on his screen. All the regiment commanders were dumbfounded too. Just as they were feeling puzzled, they saw a bunch of mechas appearing on the left side of the battlefield. It was closing in on them. FK, did our enemies return? They still remembered that not long ago, Caesar sent 2 mecha clans away from the main battlefield. They knew that these mecha operators were up to no good, but they couldn't stop them from leaving. Now, a bunch of mechas appeared from the direction where those mechas left. This made them think that the mecha operators from Caesar had returned. No, wait. Those are not Caesar's mechas, those are our mechas. In the blink of an eye, the mechas appeared before them. They could see clearly that these were mechas from the Federation. Chapter 1134. When, on the main battlefield, the mecha operators from the Federation's cheering could be heard outside of their cockpit when they saw reinforcement coming their way. Although these 2,000 mechas couldn't really change the overall situation of the battlefield, the arrival of the reinforcements still gave the mecha operators more confidence and courage. When an officer in the command center saw the reinforcement, he immediately yelled, "Commanding officer, the reinforcement from the Federation had appeared. They are currently coming from the direction where our 2 mecha clans went. Show me." The commanding officer had been waiting for their arrival. "Did you finally come? Let me see what you are made of." The screen at the command center quickly displayed the reinforcements. "Let me see how powerful you are." The commanding officer had a thought. He immediately ordered all the starships to fire at the incoming mechas. All the starships quickly turned their bodies and directed their cannons at the mechas from Lingshan. Under the order of the various leaders, multiple cannons were fired. Incoming! Everyone on the main battlefield, as well as the people watching from the base, shouted in fear of getting shot when they saw this. However, the next scene utterly stupefied everyone on the Federation's side. It also caused a large crack in the already depressing atmosphere in Caesar. The movements of the incoming mechas were strange. It didn't align with the normal sense. Everyone was flabbergasted. They moved agilely and passed the swarm of shots. Not only that, they cooperated well while doing so. They used their swords to block shots for their comrades. They basically performed a magnificent dance of hell performance for everyone to feast their eyes on. Within a few seconds, the mechas broke through the swarm of shots and arrived at the main battlefield where the 2 armies were at. However, not all the mecha operators were so disgustingly strong. The mecha operators in the back tried to dodge the shots, but they were slower and less agile than the batch of mecha operators in front of them. Fortunately, they managed to evade the swarm of shots. Suddenly, something went terribly wrong. "Oh no!" The soldiers from the Federation shouted worriedly. The starships from Caesar quickly prepared for their second round of shots after seeing the failure of their first round. This time, however, they shot at the location where the mechas would land after escaping the swarm of shots. It had to be said that the soldiers on the starship were exceptional marksmen. Within a short amount of time, They were able to maneuver the position of the cannons and aimed it at the position that would be the most damaging to the enemy. The shots flew towards the mechas. Were the mechas going to be destroyed before they entered the battlefield? At that moment, the reinforcements had already arrived on the battlefield with their raised beam guns. White-colored beams flew through the deep space, making it seem as if space was segmented into multiple parts. As white-colored beams got near the shots that were aimed at them, it exploded. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions occurred in tandem. The dark space lit up as if a supernova had just occurred. They aren't safe yet. Before the people in the base could heave a sigh of relief, they realized that more shots were being fired at their comrades. The batch of 2,000 mechas wasn't saved yet as they didn't have the time to stop the next round of shots. The long-range beam guns had the fastest shooting speed out of all the beam guns. However, it had a fatal weakness. It wasn't able to fire multiple shots, although it only required 2 seconds to congregate the energy. These 2 seconds were enough time for something to go terribly wrong. Were their comrades really going to die? Suddenly, multiple white-colored beams were seen again. The beams collided with a second round of shots. These white-colored beams didn't come from the batch of 2,000 mechas, it instead came from behind them. A glaring white light pierced everyone's eyes as they quickly tried to cover their eyes to shield them from it. Those with good eyesight would be able to see that the white beam didn't come into contact with the shot. It scraped past the shots and ignited them, clearing a safe path in space. These explosions did generate tons of force, but luckily the force wasn't strong enough to break through the shields of the mechas. The reinforcement quickly grabbed this window of opportunity and escaped from the gates of hell using the safe pathway that was cleared. They finally entered the main battlefield. That's good. The people in the base were relieved. Suddenly, their legs felt drained of their energy. They were so agitated and nervous while they were watching that their legs failed on them after they released all the tension from their bodies. They wondered if the mecha operators in the reinforcements were feeling the same way as they did. However, they recalled that those mecha operators didn't seem to be in a flurry even in the face of danger. They were just calm and indifferent. Were they confident that they were able to escape from danger? No matter what the reason was, these mecha operators were mentally stronger than them. The glaring white light finally subsided. Silence resumed on the battlefield. But another batch of mechas had appeared behind the reinforcement. Their appearance was unexpected. No one saw how they escaped from the swarm of shots. They just appeared from thin air. There were not many mechas in this new batch of mechas. From the appearance of the new arrivals, they looked like long-range mechas and balanced mechas. Everyone looked at the beam guns in the hands of the mechas and finally understood where those white-colored beams came from. There were around 7 mechas in the new batch. They had emblems and numbers painted on their chests. Everyone saw the emblems and numbers clearly. It was a black phoenix and the last few digits of the numbers were all 001. They knew what the identity of these mecha operators was. They were the leaders of Lingshan Mecha Clan. Their members were able to pass through the swarm of shots safely because they were there to protect them. However, everyone's attention was on the mecha in the middle as it was the only mecha that didn't have the digits OA at the end. Its number was even more astonishing than 001. It was all zeros. This number represented the supreme commander of Lingshan Mecha Clan, Regiment Commander Ling. Black Phoenix. It's Lingshan. The mecha operators from the Federation shouted. Those that didn't recognize them recognized them from all these shouts. Those mecha operators are not normal ace mecha masters. The commanding officer felt his heart dropping to his stomach. The worst situation had occurred. After 2 rounds of shots, normal ace mecha masters would usually be heavily injured. Elite ace mecha masters would be in better shape, but half of them would still be mildly injured. They would usually pay a deep price to get through that swarm of shots. However, none of the mechas from his opponents were destroyed. Although the leaders of Lingshan had helped their members twice, he could tell that the piloting skills of the members were exceptionally great. The commanding officer could feel that the tides of the battlefield were about to turn a 180. Ling Lan placed the beam gun behind her back and took out Firmament. She waved the sword in the air and pointed it in Caesar's direction. Charge. A cold voice echoed in the ears of the mecha operators. Everyone in Lingshan took out the swords from their sheaths and charged towards their enemies without any care of being surrounded. The retaliation has started. While the mecha operators from the Federation were stunned by this scene, they heard Commander Yu Huan's calm statement from their channel. Charge. All the mecha operators from the Federation didn't expect they could even retaliate when they received the order to battle. They were just carrying out the order even if it meant that they might die. This was the mindset of the soldiers of the Federation. This was the reason why the other nations were fearful of them. Under the lead of Lingshan, the mecha operators from the Federation rushed towards their enemies like a massive tsunami. The mecha operators that first reached their targets weren't the mecha operators of Lingshan who charged at the front, it was the leaders. The opponents they chose were either the regiment commanders or leaders of the numerous Caesar mecha clans in the battlefield. Kill them. Visit website ourlistnovel.com. The two armies collided. Only the strongest would survive in this cruel and unforgiving battlefield. Boom, boom, boom. The mecha operators from Lingshan were all very powerful. They were like reapers, reaping away the lives of all the mecha operators around them. They utterly decimated the first line of defense of Caesar. The mecha operators behind the devils of Lingshan were astounded and shocked. Even until the end of the battle, they were still in a daze. They felt as though everything was a dream. After the attack from Lingshan, the front line of Caesar started crippling apart. By right, Caesar shouldn't be defeated so easily. They had more mechas than the Federation. However, the overpowering strength of the mecha operators from Lingshan destroyed their confidence. They couldn't defeat the devils from Lingshan no matter how hard they tried. Even when they outnumbered them, the impact of this failure was even greater than losing a one-on-one battle. Adding on to this, there was a bunch of long-range mechas controlling the situation. They would snipe wherever they were needed. The mecha operators had to watch their comrades falling one by one. Yet, their opponents were still standing there confidently, taunting them, utterly humiliating them. This stark contrast of confidence and strength lowered their morale. As time went by, they started giving up. Commanding officer, the front line can't hold on much longer. The officer in the command center was pale in the face. He had a look of disbelief on his face. Just those bunch of mecha operators were able to turn the situation of the battlefield. This was totally unexpected. I know. The commanding officer had a deadpan expression. He had been staring at the front line all these while. In the end, the worst situation had happened. On the slightly bright side, it proved that Lingshan was a scary mecha clan that had the capabilities of a legendary mecha clan even though it wasn't a legendary mecha clan. Order everyone to retreat. The commanding officer got what he wanted, so he wouldn't carry on the battle anymore as it would just result in more losses. The starships from Caesar released the signal for a retreat. The mecha operators from Caesar seemed to be waiting for this moment as they quickly retreated without any hesitation. Ah, this is great. We won. We won against Caesar. We won. Many mecha operators started tearing up while hugging the person next to them. They had been suppressed by Caesar for so many years. They finally succeeded in breaking away from Caesar's shadows. While the other mecha operators were celebrating the victory, the mecha operators from Lingshan waved their swords unhappily. They turned around and looked at their regiment commander in hopes that he would order them to chase after their enemies. Regiment commander? Qilong was unwilling to leave too. Ling Lan looked at the time on her communicator. 8 minutes was almost up. She said, "Let's go back to our base." "Yes, Regiment Commander." The leaders could only agree with much regret in their hearts. All the mecha operators from Lingshan put away their burning fighting spirit and gathered in their teams. The other mecha clans wanted to express their gratitude to Lingshan, but before they could get near them, the mechas from Lingshan had left. They disappeared in an instant. Lingshan mecha clan is really arrogant. One of the regiment commanders hid his envy as he complained. If you can decide the outcome of a battle with just your presence, you can be arrogant too. Someone didn't agree with what he said and refuted. It's just that we fought together, so it's alright to greet each other, right? The person explained quickly. When Lingshan came, we didn't welcome them. Hence, it's understandable that they will ignore us now. The other person felt that they deserved the cold treatment. It seems like the rumor of Piercing Arrow getting defeated by them is true. Someone suddenly recalled a rumor he had heard many months ago. Based on their performance just now, even the Proudwen Mecha Clan couldn't be compared with them. I suspect that the public information of Lingshan is fake. Isn't it just a first-rank 5-star Mecha Clan, or is it? This prediction was too frightening. The regiment commander quickly stopped what he wanted to say. While the regiment commanders were discussing among themselves, the mecha operators from Lingshan had already returned to their base. The mechas entered the launching ports orderly, and most of them managed to launch stability before the first anti-collision belt. Chapter 1135. Be aware of. Our mecha operators are amazing. The logisticians of Lingshan looked at their mecha operators with admiration and respect as they safely returned back to the base. They felt proud that they were providing services to these mecha operators. Our mecha operators are outstanding, so we must be able to keep up with them. We must become the best logisticians. Do your best in everything. Don't embarrass our mecha clan. The leader smiled after he saw his words working their magic. The logisticians started working even harder. The overwhelming victory motivated the logisticians. Just like what their leader said, they had to work harder to catch up with these amazing mecha operators. Plus, servicing such amazing mecha operators was a display of their status too, as only the best logisticians could service the best mecha operators. The more powerful their mecha operators were, the higher their status was. In the past, they were looked down on by everyone like a pile of rubbish on the side of the road. They could only go to the worst mecha clan and become the lowest ranked logisticians, but finally, they were given a chance to walk on a new path. It was a tough journey and they did break down many times along the way, but they managed to survive to the end. After surviving through everything life had thrown their way, they became the best logisticians of the military. They were able to raise their heads proudly in front of any adversities. What made them the most excited was the fact that their regiment commander didn't give up on them even though they were labeled as the worst logisticians in the past. He even trusted them enough to give them mechas to pilot. Although they had to become an advanced mecha warrior in the virtual world before they could operate the mechas, they were still very grateful to be given the opportunity to pilot one. Plus, those mechas were the lowest grade of mechas their regiment commander had bought for them, and there were only a few of them, with most of them being special class mechas. Hence, most logisticians didn't have the chance to pilot a mecha yet. However, they were still elated. They had a privilege that none of the other logisticians had. Sometimes, the logisticians wondered about the intention of their regiment commander for providing them the mechas. Were the mechas really theirs? However, when they saw the special class mechas gathering dust in the mecha hold, and the fact that the mecha operators were using ace mechas, they believed that these mechas were really for them. After thinking about it, they felt even more motivated. They worked hard so that one day, they would be able to fulfill their dream of operating a mecha. Of course, they had to fulfill their work as a logistician first. The logisticians at the mecha hold quickly placed the mechas back in their holds and inspected them. They must fix any problems with the mechas in the fastest time possible. They were at the boundary, so no one knew when the next battle would occur. All the mecha operators had a backup mecha, but it was still better to be well prepared. The other logisticians were sending the mecha operators into the medical department. Linglan didn't mind a lack of logisticians in other departments, but for the medical department, she made sure that there were enough people as well as equipment. Close to 2,000 mecha operators received treatment at the same time. The logisticians there were very busy, but all the mecha operators still received the treatment they needed. The moment Linglan came down from her mecha, she received a notification from Han Xuya that the commanding officer, Yu Huan, wanted to meet her. It's time to take back what's mine. Linglan smiled. She wouldn't give up something that belonged to her. Before the battle, she needed some time to organize her mecha clan, so she gave it up for a moment. But, after this battle, she wouldn't mind being merciless if Yu Huan still didn't want to let go of his commanding power. Linglan returned to the changing room and changed into her military attire. The moment she walked out of the room, she saw Li Lan. Li Lan smiled when he saw her coming out. He helped her tie her blue cloak and passed her the blue short whip. Ling Lan took it. She raised her eyebrows and asked, I thought that you're busy reprimanding your team members. Why do you still have the time to wait for me here? Ling Lan was the last person to enter the base. Hence, she was surprised to see Li Lan here. I let Deputy Luo take care of Ling Yi. If he went to reprimand Ling Yi personally, he was giving Ling Yi too much face. Ling Yi was just a normal member of his team. Normally, the primary Mecha Master should have taken care of him. Letting the deputy leader go was already an exception. Ling Lan slowed down when she heard Ling Yi's name. She thought for a moment and said, you should pay more attention to that little brat. I'm afraid that he might be used by the people around him. Li Lan turned serious. I understand. I'll personally keep an eye on him. At first, Li Lan thought that Ling Yi was just a rash and reckless young brat. He was angry about his actions on the battlefield, but after everything ended, he calmed down and didn't take it to heart. But now, after Ling Lan's reminder, Li Lan started to become more vigilant of Ling Yi. I'm not worried since he's in your team. Ling Lan didn't have the time to care about Ling Yi. Moreover, Little Four was a playful person. He didn't have much experience, so it's hard for him to identify a traitor or a spy. In the past, Little Four suspected that all the people around Ling Yi were problematic. She felt speechless when he heard that. Li Lan's expression changed when he heard this. He lowered his head instinctively. Ling Lan didn't notice that when Li Lan tidied her cloak, his hands were shaking. Why do you treat me so well? It seems as though you only trust me. How can I let go of this? Do you know that Yu Huan wants to see me? Ling Lan continued asking. Yes, you should bring someone along to appear more dominating. Li Lan forced out a smile. If I bring you along, it won't affect my overall presence much. Ling Lan glanced at Li Lan. She wasn't satisfied with Li Lan's weak-looking frame. I'll make you seem more powerful by comparison, right? Li Lan smiled. Only Luo Ling and I are able to do that. You're underestimating me. Ling Lan turned and lifted Li Lan's chin with her whip. She smiled and said, there's still Han Zhejian, Li Shu, Lin Zongqing, and many other people. People like Shi Long, Zhao Jun, Ziyi might be too large for me, but I can still manage everyone else. Ling Lan was a tall woman. However, compared to men, she was still considered short, especially when she stood next to people like Qilong and Ziyi who were tall and muscular. Chapter 1136 Inferior. Fortunately, Ling Lan's domineering presence allowed her to suppress all these tall people. No one seemed to notice that Ling Lan was shorter than them. Of course, there were also men who were shorter than her. Luo Ling was an instance of such men. If you just took a glance, you might think that Ling Lan was the same height as Li Lan and Lin Zongqing. This was the power of a strong presence. Yes, I understand. Li Lan smiled. As expected, Ling Lan didn't like people talking about his height. Since you want to go, don't embarrass me. Ling Lan looked at Li Lan with a threatening gaze before turning to leave. Li Lan quickly caught up with her with a brighter smile on his face. He realized that Ling Lan was quite susceptible to his teasing. Ling Lan, are you giving me a chance to be shameless so that I can get what I want? Li Lan suddenly slowed down a little with a dreadfully pale face as a voice similar to his echoed in his mind. Li Lan, you said that you won't do anything to Ling Lan anymore. Why did you change your mind after a few words? If you continue to be like this, you'll eventually make mistakes you will forever regret. Wake up. Remember that he treats you like his best friend and confidant. He doesn't like men. What happened? A warm hand suddenly grabbed Li Lan's cold hand as he was falling in a dark pit in his mind. Li Lan looked up with tearful eyes. He saw a pair of dark eyes that were filled with care and concern. Ling Lan was frowning too. She was worried about him. Did you take the medicine? Ling Lan's gaze turned sharp. Why didn't you go to the medical department for treatment? Do you think I'll be happy if you do this? Li Lan shook his head. I didn't take the medicine. You told me that with my physical constitution and spiritual power, it's not suitable for me to take the medicine. It'll just bring me more harm than the rest of the people. Why won't I listen to you? I might not listen to other people, but I'll definitely listen to you. Li Lan continued earnestly. Why is your body reacting so violently then? Ling Lan continued frowning. She couldn't understand what was happening to Li Lan's body. Having a strong spiritual power has its implications. Li Lan smiled bitterly. He could only just push the blame to his strong spiritual power. Really? After the qi exercises helped her to recover her health, Ling Lan never experienced any more implications of having a strong spiritual power. However, she had a powerful bug known as Little Four. Even if a part of her spiritual power leaked out, Little Four would help her seal it. Li Lan didn't have anyone helping him. He could only rely on himself, so it might be possible that there were implications even after using the qi exercises. Ling Lan looked at Li Lan with pity. She decided to think of a solution for him so that he would never be affected by his strong spiritual power again. Yes. Maybe she could disturb number 2. He had been studying spiritual fusion for a long time, so he might have learned something that could help Li Lan's situation. If Ling Lan didn't have any questions about this, she wouldn't disturb number 2 if she didn't need to, as she was quite afraid of the mysterious number 2. I'll do research and see if there's any way to solve your problem. If you have any issues, don't keep it to yourself. Remember to tell me. She held Li Lan's hand and squeezed it. His hand was so smooth. Wait, I should be comforting him, not taking advantage of him. Li Lan's eyes lit up. However, in the next second, he gave a complicated expression. Okay. Li Lan finally managed to squeeze an okay out of his mouth. Then, he looked down and pulled his hands back from Ling Lan's grasp. He was afraid that if he stared at Ling Lan for any longer, he wouldn't be able to control himself and reveal his feelings for Ling Lan. Read more chapters at listnovel.com. Li Lan was filled with emotions, but he remained logical in the end. He knew that once he told Ling Lan his feelings, he wouldn't be Ling Lan's most trusted comrade anymore. He could almost imagine Ling Lan's eyes turning cold and looking at him as though he was a stranger. I can't say it. I can't. Li Lan clenched his fist and controlled his emotions. He looked up and forced out a smile. Ling Lan, thank you for your concern, but I'm fine. Ling Lan looked at him intently. She knew that the smile he was showing her wasn't sincere. However, she never liked to force people to do what they do not want. Hence, she didn't say anything and turned around. She walked out of the place. You know that I'm lying, right? How can I fool you? You understand me just like how I understand you. I thought that we could be each other's confidants for the entire life. However, the friendship between us turned into a one-sided love. I try to cover up my feelings carefully, but it is slowly coming out. If you take pity on me, why don't you expose me? That way, I can confidently stand in front of you without any secrets and continue to be your friend. Li Lan looked at the figure in front of him in a daze. He never knew that one day, he would be so pitiful that he would pray that he could stay beside a person and that the person wouldn't hate him. He never knew he could be so desperate for a person to like him. The two of them quickly arrived at the command center at the base. The moment Li Lan entered the command center, his gaze turned cold. The Li Lan who was in love was gone. The cold-blooded advisor Li Lan was now online. Many regiment commanders were already at the command center. Some of them gathered together and were chatting while others walked around lazily. Some went around the place and greeted one another. When Li Lan and Ling Lan entered the command center, they glanced at them before continuing what they were doing. Regiment commander, if I'm not wrong, they're all here for you. Li Lan stifled his laughter as he continued. However, they don't know what you look like. Maybe they're here for something else. Ling Lan felt that this was the case too, but she was embarrassed to admit it. However, it was true that not many people had seen her face before. Besides meeting Yu Huan on the first day she came and challenging Piercing Arrow, she never revealed herself. Everyone in Lingshan followed after her too. The leaders of Lingshan seldom revealed themselves, so most of the people in the base didn't recognize them. Even though most of the regiment commander didn't recognize Ling Lan, there were still people that knew her. One of the regiment commanders who were chatting in a group looked up and saw Ling Lan coming in slowly. His eyes immediately lit up with fervor. He hurried over and said loudly, "Regiment Commander Ling, You're finally here." All the other regiment commanders stopped what they were doing and looked at Ling Lan with surprise. This young regiment commander was the regiment commander of Lingshan? Chapter 1137. Proud. The person who called out Ling Lan was Lin Yang, the regiment commander of the Slaughter Mecha clan. In the recent battle, he was the commander of the frontline army. He thought that they would lose, but the arrival of Lingshan changed the outcome of the battle. After returning to the base, he heard that Lingshan had annihilated the Night Ace Mecha clan as well as 2 more Ace Mecha clans before coming to the main battlefield. Within such a short time, they went through 4 rounds of intense battle. A normal mecha operator would have broken down from the high intensity, but none of the mecha operators from Lingshan seemed to have been affected. Lin Yang was amazed by the willpower of the mecha operators in Lingshan. He couldn't help but think of the hellish training he saw when he visited them. Was it really effective? Should he follow in their way? Right after he arrived back to the base, he received a notice from Yu Huan informing him of a meeting for all the regiment commanders in the base. Lin Yang came very early for the meeting. He knew that in this meeting, Yu Huan would be giving the commanding power of the base to Ling Lan, and he was happy to see this. He was fully convinced of Lingshan's strength and Ling Lan commanding capability. Since he was early, he started chatting with a few regiment commanders he was familiar with. Of course, their conversation revolved around Lingshan and their regiment commander, Ling Lan. After talking for a short while, Ling Lan arrived. Lin Yang rushed towards Ling Lan and said sincerely, "Regiment Commander Ling, I was too brash in the past. Please forgive me." "That's nothing. I welcome you to visit my mecha clan any time." Ling Lan replied calmly, "This is my mecha clan style." Ling Lan's tone was indifferent, but her unconcerned attitude was obvious. Lin Yang immediately smiled. He was elated. "Of course, please take care of us in the future." Ling Lan nodded and acknowledged him. After that, the atmosphere in the command center turned lively as all the other regiment commanders came up to introduce themselves to Ling Lan. Ling Lan calmly nodded at every one of them to acknowledge their existence. She didn't say anything, but the seriousness in her eyes made everyone feel respected. The entire command center turned noisy. Li Lan looked at his regiment commander with admiration. Yes, this was his regiment commander. He seemed cold, but a simple acknowledgement from him would create huge results. This was something he could never achieve in his lifetime. Sometimes, Li Lan was puzzled. Ling Lan's force of presence was strong and his way of doing things was domineering. He was vicious, ruthless, and cold towards people. Yet, it was hard to dislike him. Unconsciously, people would be convinced by him. Was this the aura of a king? Li Lan smiled bitterly. He started to recall what had happened around Ling Lan. It was obvious that Ling Lan was a king. He sighed. He basically walked towards his Phoenix Thrall fate, changing his destiny. If he had controlled his feelings and not got tempted by it, the Phoenix Thrall fate would have nothing to do with him, but it was just too hard. Nothing to do with him. Li Lan felt his heart throbbing when he thought of this. Let's not think about it. Li Lan forced himself to stop thinking. He wouldn't be able to control himself if he continued. He would not only destroy himself, but he would also harm the person he loved dearly. "Regiment Commander Ling, you're already here." A familiar voice woke Li Lan up from his stupor. Yu Huan appeared in the command center. "Commander Yu, nice to meet you." Ling Lan nodded. "Since you're here, shall we gather in the meeting room?" Yu Huan said to all the regiment commanders. Everyone nodded. They knew why they were all gathered here. Soon, they moved to the meeting room. Everyone found a seat for himself. Yu Huan let Ling Lan sit on his left. Ling Lan glanced at him and said, "Thank you." She sat down naturally. Li Lan stood silently in a corner behind Ling Lan. He waited for the meeting to start. "Actually, I'm sure all of you know why I gathered you here." Yu Huan smiled as he spoke. The other regiment commanders smiled too. "Of course, I've been waiting for this day for a long time," one of the regiment commanders replied. Yu Huan continued, "Yes, we should have done this a long time ago, but Regiment Commander Ling was busy organizing his mecha clan. In the recent battle, we won against Caesar. This is a glorious achievement for Base Nebula. and I will take this opportunity to pass the Commander-in-Chief position of the base to Regiment Commander Ling. What do you think? Commander Yu is right. Regiment Commander Ling should have taken over this position a long time ago. Why don't we complete the procedure today? All the regiment commanders agreed with the proposal. The recent battle today proved how strong Lingshan was. The fact that they defeated Night Ace Mecha Clan was already enough to convince them. Since no one has any objection to the proposal, let's proceed. We'll have a vote now. Yu Huan's smile got brighter. Commander Yu Huan, I have a question for Regiment Commander Ling. Just as Yu Huan thought that everything was going smoothly, one of the regiment commanders suddenly raised his hand. Yu Huan frowned. He controlled his unhappiness and said kindly, Regiment Commander Zheng, please go ahead. Since you're going to be the commander-in-chief of our base, can you introduce yourself? Regiment Commander Zheng disregarded the glares from the crowd and spoke his thoughts loudly. Since the other party wanted them to trust him, he should at least be honest about his identity. Right? The other regiment commanders, who were unhappy at Regiment Commander Zheng's behavior at first, acknowledged his question. They looked at Ling Lan and waited for his response. Ling Lan glanced at Li Lan. Li Lan understood her and closed his eyes slightly. Little 4, control all the signals in the base. Ling Lan ordered Little 4 silently. I understand, boss. Little 4 rubbed his hands excitedly. It was finally his time to perform. My background is very simple. Ling Lan noticed Yu Huan's helpless expression. There was no way she could evade this question. However, she had never thought of hiding her past. She was proud to be Ling Zhao's son. Chapter 1138 Background. All the regiment commanders were drawn in by Ling Lan's words. Some even seemed weirdly excited. I graduated from 1st Men's Military Academy. I entered the 23rd Division as the top student of my year. Ling Lan continued calmly, and I was very fortunate to be able to activate my Mecha Clan the moment I entered the 23rd Division. Everyone received surprise after surprise with every sentence Ling Lan said. Ling Lan made her life's story sound easy, but they knew that she needed to pass the 3 hard assessments in order to activate her Mecha Clan. Even soldiers who had been in the military for 6 years might not be able to pass the 3 assessments. Yet, Ling Lan managed to do it the moment she entered the military. I have a bunch of reliable teammates, so after completing a 4-star mission, I took over the position of the regiment commander of the 250 Ace Mecha Clan. Lingshan Mecha Clan used to be known as 250 Ace Mecha Clan. 250 Ace Mecha Clan was one of the top 10 Mecha Clan in the land clearing mission on planet Zhuhao. Everyone remembered the merit 250 Ace Mecha Clan had in the past. Ling Lan calmly glanced at the crowd before she continued. Before coming to Base Nebula, I experienced a huge battle. The battle on planet Hejiao. Ah! Everyone shouted in surprise when they heard this. That specific battle was universally famous. It was the most dangerous battle the Federation had won recently. By right, the Federation was destined to lose that battle. However, Ling Zhao's son jumped level and operated a god-class mecha to turn the tides around. He protected the sole surviving base of the Federation so that they were able to last until reinforcements came. This single act managed to alter the result of the entire battle. Through this victory, they even took the opportunity to destroy Helia. Read more chapters at listnovel.com. The Federation gained many benefits after the victory, but close to 200 million soldiers were killed in battle. Some of them were even prodigies who might be able to advance to God class in the perceivable future. The Federation was glorified for this victory, but the people of the Federation seemingly had forgotten the price for the victory. People who deeply remembered the price they had to pay for the victory were the families of those fallen soldiers and their comrades who saw them killed right in front of them. Most of the soldiers in the military felt that the battle on planet Hejiao wasn't as glorious as the people had imagined it to be. It was just an overall waste in their minds. It was a battle filled with unnecessary sacrifices. If Prince Ling didn't sacrifice his own future for the so-called glory, it would just be a battle filled with waste and despair. Not every battle would have such miracles occurring. They had to carve this point deeply in their minds to prevent a similar situation from ever occurring again. All the regiment commanders were excited. They knew that the Federation had secretly sent the Flying Dragon Special Forces to reinforce the soldiers on planet Heijiao. There were FM legendary mecha clans sent there too. Was Regiment Commander Ling from one of the legendary mecha clans? I was the commanding officer of the only surviving base on planet Heijiao, Base 013. Ling Lan's nonchalant tones sounded beside them. They were dumbfounded by the sudden surprise. "You're Prince Ling." Even the forever calm Yu Huan was flabbergasted as he looked at Ling Lan in shock with mouth agape. "I don't know why the military used Prince Ling to refer to me, but I am indeed the son of Ling Zhao." Ling Lan frowned in annoyance when she heard the nickname the military gave her. "But you're heavily injured. You shouldn't be able to operate a mecha anymore." Lin Yang couldn't believe it. The war hero he felt pity for was right in front of him, unscathed, unharmed and in great health. Were they fooled by the military? "I can operate a mecha, but my level has degraded. I can't perform difficult techniques anymore." "You can say I'm half useless," Ling Lan replied calmly. When they heard that, some of the regiment commanders quickly remembered that Regiment Commander Ling didn't move much during the recent battle. Even the regiment commander of the Night Mecha Clan was killed by 3 of his leaders, not him. His current situation was definitely better than what the military had announced to the public, but it wasn't too good either. However, they still felt fortunate that Prince Ling was still able to pilot a mecha. The only downside was that he wouldn't be able to advance further in the future. Everyone was quiet. Some felt pity for Ling Lan, but others were happy for her current situation. There were so many thoughts going through their heads that they didn't know what to say. Yu Hua took a deep breath and calmed down. He looked at Ling Lan with a complex expression on his face. He thought that Ling Lan was a talent the military was grooming. He never expected Ling Lan to be such a huge figure. He felt pity for Ling Lan's situation. If Ling Lan didn't jump levels at that time, he would definitely be able to become the general of a division, imprinting him and his father as legends in the military. Yu Huan knew that Ling Lan's future was dark, but since he came to Base Nebula, he should still provide Prince Ling the treatment he deserved. Yu Huan coughed and said, "Now that everyone knows Regiment Commander Ling's background, let's vote." However, before that, allow me to say a few words. Ling Shen is definitely powerful enough to become the top mecha clan in our base. As for Regiment Commander Ling, I acknowledged his commanding skills. I agree to let him become the commander-in-chief of our base. Lin Yang raised his hand immediately. "I agree too." More hands shot up. "I agree." The regiment commanders were already convinced by Ling Shen's ability on the battlefield. Now, after hearing that Ling Lan was Ling Zhao's son, they were even more convinced. Some regiment commanders who were hesitant at first agreed to after seeing most of the regiment commanders voting for Ling Lan. Since Ling Lan was eventually going to be the commander-in-chief, why should they make him angry by not voting for him? He might not be at his peak anymore, but he still had a powerful father behind him, right? General Ling Zhao was said to be the next first marshal. He would be the most powerful person in the future. They didn't want to offend such a person. "Boss, they're sending messages," Little Four shouted excitedly. He almost got bored from staring at the signals. Finally, before the meeting ended, something in his line of work happened. "It's inside the base," Ling Lan said firmly. "Yes, how do you know?" Little Four asked curiously. "The battle just ended, so the mainframe would be keeping a close watch of the signals outside of the base. No one would dare to send any messages out now. The mainframe would be able to track any messages sent out of the base now, so no one would be stupid enough to do it when it was high alert." "Do you know how many people sent messages?" Ling Lan asked. 7. They sent messages to people in their mecha clan. Little Four replied. "Are they all problematic?" "Maybe. We need to keep an eye out for any suspicious action." Ling Lan smiled. "Those who did not send a message can't be cleared of their suspicion too. However, those who sent are definitely more suspicious." Chapter 1139 Fish Bait. "I will definitely dig them up." Little Four rubbed his fists like a swindling old man as he spoke. It was finally time for him to show his abilities. Just watch them for now. Don't make any sudden moves. Ling Lan suddenly put an end to his dream. Why? Little Four pursed his lips as he stared at Ling Lan for an answer. Li Lan is already guarding the virtual world. He is probably there waiting for the big fish to take the bait. Ling Lan's eyes narrowed. The reason why she was being so truthful about her identity was because she was putting out a bait. She wanted to see who would not be able to resist and take the bait. Of course, it was alright if there weren't any fish biting. After all, her real goal was to probe the water to alert the larger fishes hidden in the deep seas. She had already become the commander-in-chief of the mecha clans of the base. So she needed to get rid of those people with multiple identities who had plots and ploys for their own gains. Ling Lan never liked danger to be hidden so close to her. Hearing this, Little Four ran to the corner with his stubby legs and squatted down with a dissatisfied expression. This Li Lan actually took my only chance of showing off. HMPH. I don't like him even more now. However, even if Little Four really wanted to show off, he still wouldn't go against Boss's wishes. If Boss wanted to set out a bait for the larger fishes to bite, he would just watch and silently wait for Boss's next orders. However, if Li Lan didn't perform up to expectations, then he shouldn't blame him for making any moves. When the time comes, he would use all of his power to make Li Lan look bad in order to lower his position in Boss's heart. It was very clear that Little Four held grudges for a long time. Let us pray for Li Lan. At that moment, Li Lan was floating in the sky of the virtual world, looking down on Base Nebula. The 7 locations he was keeping a watchful eye under had 3 locations where someone had logged in. Li Lan smirked, and in the next second, his black cape wrapped around his entire body like a black cocoon. Afterwards, the black cocoon split into 3 silhouettes and disappeared. It was as though he had never appeared in the virtual world. Out of the 3 people who logged in, 2 of them immediately went to the mecha arena like they always did to participate in mecha battles. The 3rd person went to buy something from the virtual shop before returning to the Plaza Square inches the base. In the Plaza Square, he was sitting down on a bench to take a short break. There were many soldiers moving about within the plaza. That person sat there for a while before he seemed to have remembered something. He quickly stood up and went towards the mecha parts shop on the opposite side of the plaza. "You're here, Major Wang." The logistician who was responsible for the shop saw Major Wang walking in and greeted him warmly. "Yes, I want to ask whether Master Ming has finished the mecha arm I asked him to make," asked Major Wang. "Master Ming just finished it yesterday. He originally wanted to notify you about the completion of the arm yesterday, but he didn't expect that Caesar would attack us so suddenly. Everyone was preparing for battle, so we just placed your arm to the side," explained the logistician. "No matter. This battle was quite an eye-opening experience. This battle allowed me to see the inadequacies of our base." Major Wang had a pensive look on his face. "If Lingshan wasn't here, we probably would not have escaped with our lives." "Yeah, we're lucky to have Lingshan," the logistician said with great pride on his face. After Major Wang spoke with the logisticians for a short while, he calmly walked towards the warehouse in the back to find Master Ming for his mecha arm. The warehouse was busy. The mechanics all had their heads down and were focusing greatly on their work. Most mechanics in the industry were perfectionists in their own right. They wished for every modification they were doing to be as perfect as they could be. Among them, there was a youthful yet white-haired old man who would easily draw a person's attention as soon as one laid his or her eyes on them. Anyone who entered the warehouse might neglect any other person in the warehouse, but they wouldn't be able to neglect this old man's existence. This old man's intense focus and impossible-to-see installation techniques forced those around him to marvel at his abilities. After seeing the old man, the corner of Major Wang's lips lifted slightly. He walked with great stride and greeted him with a smile. "Master Ming." After hearing the greeting, Master Ming stopped what he was doing and raised his head. He realized that it was a familiar friend and a smile quickly appeared on his face. "Major Wang, you're here." He stood up, took the towel from his assistant and wiped his forehead. Then, He spoke to the few logisticians who were studying his repairing techniques. You've all saw those movements clearly, right? Now you guys give it a try. Master, can we really do this? It was clear that these logisticians weren't too confident. HMPH, a bunch of sissies. This is the virtual world. Even if you break it, you can still restart. What are you afraid of? Master Ming instantly had a disappointed expression on his face, as if he was underwhelmed at how capable the younger generations were. Back then, he didn't have such good working environments like theirs. In order to stay alive when he was apprenticing in a mecha shop, he would have to endure his master's ruthless insults and beatings for breaking even the smallest mechanical part. His food rations would also be reduced, and there would always be days when he would pass the night starving. Yes. The logisticians all knew that Master Ming didn't have a good temper, so they immediately nodded in agreement when they heard him starting to nag. After giving his orders to these apprentices of his, Master Ming said to Major Wang, "All right, let's go see the virtual data of your mecha arm." The two of them walked out of the warehouse and went into a product display room. Everything in the room was organized neatly. Master Ming led Major Wang towards an area where mecha arms were on display. He pointed towards one of the thick and shiny metal arms and said, "There, that one is yours." Major Wang's eyes brightened as he exclaimed in awe, "You truly live up to your reputation, Master Ming." "This is exactly what I wanted, as long as you like it." Perhaps he had heard all the praises in the world, so Master Ming only replied indifferently to his high praise. "It's really too perfect. I believe that in Base Nebula, there isn't a single mecha engineer who can be compared to you, Master Ming." Major Wang seemed to be very impressed with Master Ming's techniques and was quite respectful in his words. These words seemed to have triggered a memory in Master Ming's mind. He shook his head and said, "Don't say that. I saw the live broadcast of the battle. Those mechas from Lingshan are probably all modified mechas. Their modifications are all perfect for the mecha too. They definitely have a very skilled mecha modification master in their ranks." "Of course, Lingshan is." Major Wang quickly stopped what he was about to say. "Is what?" Master Ming seemed to be drawn into Major Wang's accidental slip-up as he asked curiously. Major Wang had a complicated expression on his face. Although it wasn't a secret that couldn't be told, he still felt that it wasn't good to tell others before Regiment Commander Ling publicly announced her identity. "Major Wang, Wang Junzai, little Wang, are you planning on hiding something from me even though we're already so close?" Master Ming had an annoyed expression on his face. He always hated it when people stopped midway in their sentence. "All right, Master Ming, I only just got word of this as well and will only be telling you. Please don't go around telling other people about it." Major Wang didn't want to anger Master Ming, so he could only tell him to not talk to other people about it. "Am I someone who gossips?" Master Ming's gaze narrowed. He felt that Major Wang's words were humiliating him. He didn't like to gossip, but sometimes after a few drinks, he would become very talkative. No one knew whether he was saying anything he wasn't supposed to. Major Wang rolled his eyes in his mind, but he still put up an expression of total seriousness. Okay, I'll trust you." Lingshan's regiment commander Ling is the son of Ling Zhao, who everyone talks about. Do you think his mecha clan wouldn't have mecha engineer masters, even if General Ling Zhao was fair and just? He still would have to think about his own son. That's normal human behavior. "Ah, I see. No wonder you didn't want me to say anything about it. This matter definitely cannot be talked about." Master Ming was very surprised. He was now even more interested in Lingshan's mecha engineer masters. If General Ling Zhao made the arrangements, then this master of modification is definitely amazing. If it's possible, I would really like to sit down and talk to him. There will definitely be chances in the future, since Prince Ling is now our base's mecha clan's commander-in-chief. He wouldn't be leaving the base anytime soon. Alright. I also need to return to the real world to install my mecha arm. Master Ming, thank you for time and effort. Why are you thanking me for? If you use it well and kill a few enemies, I would be very happy. smiled Master Ming. "The mecha arm has already been sent to the mecha hold. This is the serial number for the pickup. Go pick it up yourself." Major Wang put away the serial number, paid the required credits and bid farewell to Master Ming. Li Lan, who was watching all of this from the side, frowned slightly. There was no doubt that there was something wrong with Major Wang. He just didn't know what type of threat he posed. However, it was difficult to ascertain this Master Ming's identity. The shadow Li Lan created followed Major Wang as he left. After the shadow watched as Major Wang disconnected from the virtual world, it gave up on following him further and returned to its host body. Not telling someone in the real world but rather in the virtual world. Could it be like what our regiment commander had predicted? The opposition is hidden within the virtual world. However, who was the informant? Was Master Ming the informant, or was he just used as bait? Li Lan didn't leave the virtual world and continued to watch those suspicious individuals. At that moment, Ling Lan had bid farewell to Yu Huan. Li Lan, who still had most of his spirit in the virtual world, left the command center and returned to Lingshan's camping ground. In the middle of the night, a black-cloaked individual suddenly appeared within the display room where Master Ming and Master Wang had talked earlier. He walked towards the positions Major Wang and Master Ming had stood. He stood there for a long time and after a while, he seemed to have received something. Then, he showed an expression of satisfaction and was preparing to leave. Suddenly, he stopped walking, turned around towards the direction and shouted out softly, "Who's there?" Another black-cloaked individual slowly appeared from a position that was previously empty. "Not good, I've fallen into a trap." The black-cloaked individual who first appeared quickly readied a fighting stance. Suddenly, he dashed to the side but he didn't expect that his body would be completely locked up by a formless power, forcing him to be unable to move an inch. "I was wondering why Major Wang would say all that to Master Ming," said the second black-cloaked individual with a smile. "I didn't think that there would actually be a spectral ability user hidden within the base. Now everything can be explained." "Spectral ability user? Who are you?" The first black-cloaked individual instantly expanded his spectral abilities to struggle out of his opponent's power. "I also want to know where you came from, Mr. Spectral Ability User." The second black-cloaked individual was filled with interest. His two spectral ability battles were all in Base Nebula. He didn't know whether it was a coincidence or his terrible fate. Although the first black-cloaked spectral ability user hid his face, he still had killing intent seeping out from his body. At that moment, outside the display room, a whistling sound suddenly came out. The individual who arrived first suddenly turned stiff. The spectral power from his body completely expanded out and rushed fiercely towards the second spectral ability user. The second spectral ability user only smiled lightly in response to the incoming attack. Suddenly, a dark vortex appeared in front of him which easily sucked in the spectral attack. Right at that moment, the first spectral ability user suddenly flew backwards and rushed outside of the display room. The second spectral ability user saw this and pointed at his opponent with his finger. A dark wave appeared from his fingertip and it flew towards the second spectral ability user. Bang! A transparent spectral shield appeared in its way and instantly blocked the dark wave. This shield gave the escaping individual enough time to hide within virtual space and completely vanish. "You want to get away? It won't be that easy." The second spectral ability user began activating his abilities which could follow the traces of the individual. Unfortunately, he still didn't find any traces of him in the end. "Consider yourself lucky," said the second spectral ability user begrudgingly. After a few minutes, a silhouette suddenly appeared beside him. "Lan, that's enough." It was indeed Ling Lan. As Ling Lan finished speaking, the black cloak on the second spectral ability user disappeared which instantly revealed Li Lan's beautiful and goddess-like face. "Wasn't my acting great?" Li Lan asked with a smile on his face. "Did you get a trace on the enemy?" Spectral ability users were quite sensitive to spectral energies so they could easily notice when they were tracked. Thus, in order to find the spectral ability user who had escaped, they must rely on an even stronger one. "Of course, in terms of spectral abilities, I've never lost before," Li Lan said confidently. "He should be here." A map of the virtual world appeared in Li Lang's hand as he pointed towards a location on the map. So it's old acquaintances. Ling Lan saw the location and half smiled. Looks like Piercing Arrow has a lot of secrets. Li Lan laughed. Let me do the rest. You go back and sleep. You've already been on the lookout for an entire day. Ling Lan turned towards Li Lan and said concernedly. Li Lan heard the concern in her voice and turned around with a shocked expression. His eyes widened and he jokingly yet caringly said, "What, you're worried about me? This monster, when did he become so daring?" The beauty who Ling Lan teased all the time was now teasing her. Ling Lan's lips couldn't help but twitch a little. Yeah, if a beauty like yourself is tired, I would be very worried. Ling Lan raised her eyebrows and gave a half-smile to Li Lan. Right as Li Lan was about to respond to her, Ling Lan continued, "If you're tired, how would I force you to do some month training regimens? Now seeing you all energized, I don't know if you'll be satisfied with just 3 months of training," said Ling Lan as she raised her eyebrows. Li Lan's forehead wrinkled slightly. He looked at Ling Lan with a sad puppy look. "Regiment commander, you're so cruel." The sad look of a bullied otherworldly beauty almost made Ling Lan drool. She really wanted to tease him even more. "If I was actually cruel, I would instantly have you do half a year of training," Ling Lan snorted coldly. She definitely couldn't let her guard around this guy. If not, this guy would continue showing such greatly coveted expressions. "Don't show that kind of expression in front of me ever again. You're not even giving off the vibes of a man now," Ling Lan said with an annoyed tone. After hearing this, Li Lan replied helplessly, "Yes, Regiment Commander. I will try my best to adhere to your wishes." Ling Lan waved her hand to gesture to Li Lan that he could leave. Seeing this, Li Lan smiled and disappeared from the virtual world. Chapter 1140 Winner. The report of the battle for the Nebula boundary was quickly sent to the Federation's military headquarters. Just the first sentence in the report was enough to cause the entire military to erupt. Lingshan wiped out Night Ace Mecha Clan? Everyone's legs were quaking when they read the report. Night Ace Mecha Clan, the one that's ranked 18th in Caesar? They double-checked and triple-checked before they could be certain that there wasn't any mistake in the report. Where did Lingshan come from? I don't remember our Federation having a mecha clan in the top ranks with such a title. Lingshan's title was unfamiliar to every one of the higher-ups in the military. If I remember correctly, Lingshan Mecha Clan was 250 Ace Mecha Clan that was under General Ling Zhao's 23rd Division. In the military, there were definitely those who had such information on hand and would explain the situation to their colleagues. So it's Prince Ling's Mecha Clan. After the name 250 Ace Mecha Clan was mentioned, everyone immediately knew who the Mecha Clan belonged to. Didn't the military hospital's godlike military doctor deem him to be unable to pilot mechas anymore? How could they have wiped out Night Ace Mecha Clan? An officer asked in shock. Prince Ling didn't make any moves. It was his subordinates, said an officer who had the luck of reading the battle report. Holy SHT, just his subordinate? What kind of monsters are they? Said another officer who was listening in on their conversation. To annihilate Night Ace Mecha Clan, they must have the strength of a legendary level Mecha Clan. From what I know, Lingshan has 600 or so peak level ace operators, 800 elite aces and more than 1,000 standard ace operators. An officer read out the data of mecha operators who Lingshan had registered. Although their numbers aren't bad, it's still only considered between first rank 3 stars and first rank 4 stars. On paper, they aren't strong enough to wipe out Night Ace Mecha Clan, which has already reached first rank 5 stars. It was clear that someone had tweaked Lingshan's data. What if half of the 600 or so peak level ace operators hadn't updated their piloting skills in the past 10 years? Moreover, the most recent update was 5 years ago by a peak level ace operator, suggested the officer who read the data. Holy SHT, holy SHT, holy SHT. This insane suggestion caused the discussing officers to all cuss. Peak level ace operators more often than not would advance into Imperial operators. 5 years was usually enough time for a peak level ace operator to get their foot out of the door into becoming an Imperial operator, and there would usually be quantitative changes in a decade. Lingshan's 300 or so peak level ace operators hadn't updated their levels in the past decade, so it was quite possible that out of these mega operators, some had advanced into the Imperial level. Of course, the other half of mega operators could also have advanced into Imperial operators, but the probability of that happening was lower than those who haven't updated in a decade. However, no matter what, they couldn't claim that Lingshan was a first-rank 3-star or first-rank 4-star mecha clan based on outdated data. Looks like our General Ling Zhao put in a lot of effort to create such a strong mecha clan to protect Prince Ling, an officer said mockingly. Prince Ling gave up his future for the Federation. He originally was going to be able to live freely and safely under the watchful eyes of General Ling Zhao. However, we aren't sure which idiot from the military made Prince Ling's 250 ace mecha clan into its own entity. They even sent them to stand guard as the main mecha clan in Base Nebula. I don't even understand why the Federation would do this to those loyal to them. An officer heard the mocking tone of his comrade and didn't feel good about it. He instantly began ranting. The military is so unreliable. If his father didn't have the insight to build such a powerful mecha clan for his son, then it might become the older generation's mourning for the younger generation. That would be a joke. Yeah, you're right. However, I heard that 250 ace mecha clan originally had 250 veteran peak level ace mecha operators. Among them were people like Ursa Major and Sagittarius. They were all people who were considered to have a high chance to advance into the Imperial level. Lingshan having such capabilities may not be General Ling Zhao's will. An officer spoke out his own opinion on the matter. That's true. General Ling Zhao has always strictly followed the rules. General Ling Zhao didn't even dispute when the military idiotically sent the severely injured Prince Ling to Base Nebula. He fully accepted it, after everything General Ling Zhao had done for the Federation. Sighed an officer. If there were more people like General Ling Zhao in the military, the Federation might be even stronger than it was now. Yeah, if someone suspected General Ling Zhao, that would be quite foolish. Everyone nodded in agreement. I just mentioned the possibility. I didn't mean anything by it. Seeing that he had angered everyone, the officer who had mocked Ling Zhao instantly had a terrible expression on his face and explained the meaning behind his words. It better mean nothing, coldly replied the ranting officer. Just from his tone, everyone knew that he didn't want to make peace with the mocking officer. Someone who dared to be disrespectful to General Ling Zhao definitely had something wrong with him and wasn't worth it to befriend. The atmosphere instantly became awkward. A colleague who was in good relations with the mocking officer immediately butted in and said, all right, everyone was just blindly chatting. Don't take it seriously. Let's go back to work. No one had the desire to continue the discussion anymore because of the altercation, and they began to work on their tasks again. However, they were still curious about how Lingshan had annihilated Night Ace Mecha Clan. Everyone was waiting for the military to give out the final report of the battle and publicly announce the rewards and merits. In a dimly lit living room, two people were sitting face to face in a dark corner of the room. A chessboard was between them as they silently played against each other. Chief. The subordinate had waited for a long time. After seeing his chief not making his next move on the chessboard, he raised his head and called him softly. The chief seemed to have been awoken from his daze. He looked up towards his subordinate and said calmly, "What you told me earlier. Tell me about your thoughts about it." His subordinate's finger shook as he dropped the chess piece onto the board. He calmed his nerves before he carefully replied, "Chief, Ling Zhao's name is like the sun in the sky. In the military, if someone were to speak about him disrespectfully, they would be publicly attacked and or shamed by groups of people." After saying all this, he carefully glanced at his chief and said, "We have to be on guard." How? His son achieved miracles one after the other. He can get all that he wants while doing absolutely nothing. the chief said calmly. But we still can't let them do as they please. Otherwise, it would affect your plan, said the subordinate anxiously. We're not in a hurry. Water can make a boat float but can also sink it. It isn't necessarily good for his name to be held in such high regard. The eyes of the chief seemed to be full of wisdom. I want to see just how Ling Zhao will react. We're only going to watch? Asked the subordinate. Ling Zhao can do as he pleases, but he has a fatal weakness. The chief raised his head and smiled coldly. The black chess piece decisively fell onto the board. God-class operator. The Federation's rule states that unless it was a nationwide problem, God-class operators are restricted from taking the position of marshal. Prince Ling. He thinks he could use his son as a proxy marshal while in reality he would be the one in power? The chief smirked. He won't be able to get past the three marshals. I understand, chief. After hearing his chief's words, he instantly understood why his chief was so calm. Although we don't need to do anything, we can still cause some trouble for Ling Zhao. We can get rid of some disgusting parasites along the way as well. Doing something that kills two birds with stone isn't bad, right? The chief stood up. Chief, you're saying? The subordinate understood. I think Ling Zhao will be very willing to take care of this troublesome issue. The chief waved his hand and said, go make the arrangements. Yes, chief. The subordinate replied excitedly. The information they had accidentally discovered 10 years ago was finally going to be used. Finally, the dimly lit living room now only had the chief in it. He stood in the dark corner and looked towards a certain direction as if he was remembering something. After a long while, he raised his right hand and clenched with great force. Only the person who could last until the end can be considered the victor. Ling Zhao, you will obey me in the end. A burning desire showed in his eyes. That person, who seemed to be mild-mannered and actually aloof, would definitely bow down to him. Just thinking about Ling Zhao bowing down to him made the chief feel butterflies in his stomach. I didn't lose 20 years ago and I won't lose now either. Ling Zhao, the final result will not change. You will never win against me. In the 23rd Division headquarters, staff officer he ran hurriedly into his division commander's office. General. He Xuanyang shouted excitedly. What's the matter? Ling Zhao asked calmly. He didn't raise his head and was still reading the document in his hands. Young Master Lan made new achievements again, He Xuanyang said excitedly. Huh? Ling Zhao continued flipping the page and was seemingly unmoved by He Xuanyang's words. Young Master Lan's Lingshan wiped out Caesar's Night Ace Mecha Clan. The overly excited He Xuanyang didn't care whether his general was listening to him or not. He just quickly poured out what he had read in the report he just received. Ling Zhao's hand froze. He slowly raised his head. Night Ace Mecha Clan? Yeah. Caesar's 18th rank Night Ace Mecha Clan. Our young Master Lan is as impressive as always. He Xuanyang looked as if he was happy his own child had grown up. His expression made Ling Zhao's lips twitch uncontrollably. That's my daughter. What's the meaning of your expression? He didn't fight? Ling Zhao put down the documents and asked the question he was most concerned about. Based on the report, young Master Lan didn't fight, replied He Xuanyang. It seems those people she took under her have matured a lot. Smiled Ling Zhao. Of course, our young Master Lan is definitely a great coach for soldiers. He Xuanyang showed the same expression as before and it continued to make Ling Zhao feel his teeth itch. However, after this, another battle will erupt in our military. After He Xuanyang finished being excited, he thought of this issue. Although Ling Lan had left the 23rd Division to create her own army which has nothing to do with me, our father and son relationship still makes it impossible for me to escape from being connected with him. Ling Zhao knew of this outcome. Everything he did was to protect his precious daughter. At least, under his supervision, she would have been able to fly freely. However, it's going to be an uphill battle. General, your current situation is somewhat dangerous, right now. He Xuanyang knew better than anyone of Ling Zhao's current situation. The better Ling Lan did, the more General Ling Zhao would be burned by the fires that are on him. It was just that someone like young Master Lan, an otherworldly monster, would eventually fly to the top in the end where no one will be able to stop him. It's not like there aren't any chances. Ling Zhao's eyes glimmered. It must be at the right place and the right time. Now is not the time. We must wait. But waiting until when? He Xueyang frowned. He was afraid that before getting a chance to turn the tides around, General Ling Zhao would be burned to cinders. Should be soon. Someone probably couldn't hold it any longer. Although Ling Lan's military achievements made it more difficult for him, it also forced those people to lose their patience. Once it passed the amount they could endure, they would definitely make moves. When that happens, Ling Zhao would have his chance. Yu Huan actually didn't quite understand why the battle report would be written in that way. However, Ling Lan was the person responsible for reporting to the higher-ups. If she didn't mind, then Yu Huan would put his suspicions into the back of his head and sign his name on the final battle report. After the mainframe sent out the report along with the video feed to the military, he asked what he was most concerned about. Regiment Commander Ling, why did you not write that you had also entered the battle? It turns out, Ling Lan's report and virtual video feed all had her presence erased from it. Overflowing is a bad thing, replied Ling Lan calmly. Getting to this position at my age is enough. Yu Huan's eyes trembled. He didn't expect that this Prince Ling would be so knowledgeable of the position he was in. Indeed, even with a strong background, Ling Lan was already a god among men for having such a position at his age. He wasn't any worse than General Ling Zhao back in the day. However, it wouldn't necessarily be a good thing if he were to rise any higher in the ranks. This was the truth, especially because General Ling Zhao was already at a high point of the ladder where by now he couldn't even climb the up or down the ladder. Plus, I'm the commander-in-chief of the mecha clans in the base, so I should be in the base commanding the battle, not going out there. Ling Lan continued. I would rather just let it be and not take the merits or the punishments. That way no one could say anything about it. Morally sound, sighed Yu Huan. After reaching a certain position, one would be able to understand that the seemingly useless morally sound path was actually the safest choice. Maintain stability, Ling Lan said calmly. She could only use this method to make herself less noticeable to decrease the trouble she was giving her father. However, despite her making herself less noticeable, as long as she was still Ling Shan's regiment commander, these troubles wouldn't decrease by too much. I still want to thank Regiment Commander Ling for allowing the other mega clans in Base Nebula to receive merits, Yu Huan said gratefully. However, he quickly began to worry. I'm not sure if Caesar would publicize the video feed. Falsifying military merits was a huge crime, despite the fact that it was Ling Shan splitting theirs on their own accord. They won't have it. They'll only talk about it. We can say that it's their excuse for losing to avoid losing face. If Ling Lan dared to do this, she would definitely not let anyone blackmail her. The information that Night Ace Mecha Clan and 2 other Mecha Clans were wiped out and would not be leaked. Plus on the battlefield, Little Four had jammed the video feed of every camera that had even caught a glimpse of her. The opposition only had videos of Ling Shan's ruthless mecha operators. However, the mecha operators on the base behind them were all real. Additionally, Little Four's zoomed-in video feed made it even more realistic. That's good to know. Just from the fact that Ling Lan had managed to create a realistic virtual battle video feed, Yu Huan knew that within Ling Shan Mecha Clan, there definitely was at least one Imperial-level hacker. If Ling Lan said that Caesar wouldn't have it, then he definitely had enough confidence to not let them have it. After all, Imperial-level hackers did indeed have the ability to jam the video feed for a short while.